Chapter 1421. 3 months ago, Duan Lingtian had deliberately asked Fang Wei, the city governor of Mount Hill City, about the martial and Dao cultivators on the Saint Rudiment stage. According to Fang Wei, only true energy alone would improve in the early and intermediate stages of the Saint Rudiment stage. The actual transformation would only take place when one had reached the mastery stage. A person on the Mastery Saint Rudiment stage would be able to cast the true energy consolidated weapon technique, and when he was battling other people, he would be able to consolidate the relic phenomenon using part of his true energy to attack the other party, just like Zhou Qi, the inner court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect, who had come to the city governor's estate of Mount Hill City 6 months ago. At that time, he had solidified his true energy into a giant hammer, which was a relic phenomenon. If he had not used his relic phenomenon, Fang Wei, who was at the Saint Rudiment stage intermediate stage, would most likely still have been able to hold it out for a while. The moment the relic phenomenon was unleashed, Fang Wei became completely powerless right away. That scene was still deeply etched in Duan Lingtian's mind. When that relic gigantic hammer phenomenon slammed downwards, it was like a huge mountain that crushed down and could suppress everything. The true energy consolidated weapon was a technique from the Mastery Saint Rudiment stage. Once one had entered the Perfection Saint Rudiment stage, one would be able to master another new technique, the True Energy Consolidated Beast. When a person had merged with the blood essence of a fierce beast or a saint beast, one would be able to consolidate the phenomenon of the ferocity of the saint beast using his true energy after he had broken through to the Perfection Saint Rudiment stage. That phenomenon was known as the Variant Beast phenomenon. If one managed to merge with the blood essence of a powerful fierce beast or a saint beast, the variant beast phenomenon that one merged would be just as mighty. Only a live fierce beast or saint beast would have blood essence. If it was already dead, the blood essence would evaporate and vanish without a trace. That time, when Duan Lingtian had killed the 5-clawed devil dragon, he did not know that there was such a thing pertaining to the Saint Rudiment stage, so he did not think of getting its blood essence at all. Of course, it did not mean that he would definitely be able to get it even if he wanted to. After all, it was all thanks to the Devil Seal tablet that he was able to kill the 5-clawed devil dragon at that very critical moment. He did not have the chance to take the blood essence from the 5-clawed devil dragon at all. Fortunately, Elder Huo has a method of refining the regular blood in the 5-clawed devil dragon into blood essence. Otherwise, I'd have missed this opportunity already. Duan Lingtian secretly felt grateful. Even though Elder Huo was a 3-legged golden crow, the divine sunbird of the ancient mythology from Duan Lingtian's past life, he did not know about this true energy consolidated beast technique in this world, since every mundane planet had their own cultivation methods. Once he knew about this, he informed Duan Lingtian that he would refine the ordinary blood of the 5-clawed devil dragon into the blood essence. In fact, after Duan Lingtian learned that the technique of a Perfection Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse was related to the blood essence of a fierce beast or a saint beast, he felt a little depressed. This was because although he had the 5-clawed devil dragon's body in his possession, he did not have its blood essence at all. If he merged with the blood essence of the 5-clawed devil dragon, he would be able to consolidate the divine dragon phenomenon to battle with his enemy when he entered the Perfection Saint Rudiment stage. On top of that, it was a 5-clawed divine dragon, for goodness sake. He could not help but get excited just thinking about it. It was a good thing that Elder Huo had a way of salvaging the situation. Otherwise, Duan Lingtian did not know how discouraged he would get. Right now, the moment he heard that Elder Huo had successfully refined it, he could not help but feel overwhelmed with excitement. This was, no doubt, thrilling news. It would affect how far his strength would reach in the future. It was as though he could already see how he was going to consolidate the 5-clawed divine dragon phenomenon to battle with his enemy. According to Teacher, in addition to having a shape and spirit, the variant beast phenomenon that's consolidated by a Perfection Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse would even have force. If I can consolidate a 5-clawed divine dragon phenomenon, wouldn't the other ordinary variant beasts scatter the moment they see the prowess of the dragon? The second Duan Lingtian thought of this, he practically trembled with excitement. Elder Huo, please keep the blood essence of the 5-clawed devil dragon first. I'll only take it from you after I've landed in the Moon Illumination sect. Although he was itching to merge with the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence immediately, he still suppressed the desire in his heart, since there was no use for him to be that desperate for now. He was still far away from accessing the Perfection Saint Rudiment stage. When he snapped back to reality, he noticed that he was already in the proximity of the monastery gate of the Moon Illumination sect. he could see that the scene behind the gate was completely painted by mist and fog, which allowed them to see nothing at all. After reaching the front of the monastery gate of the Moon Illumination sect, Feng Wei motioned to Duan Lingtian and the two others solemnly before descending. "We'll have to walk through the monastery gate." Duan Lingtian and the two others followed suit and descended as well. Under Feng Hui's guidance, the three of them reached the monastery gate of the Moon Illumination sect but were blocked by the two Moon Illumination sect disciples who were guarding the gate. Taking out an order token and waving it around in front of the two Moon Illumination sect disciples, Feng Wei announced, "I, the city governor of Mound Hill City, am here with these young talents from Mound Hill City to join the entrance assessment that the sect will hold tomorrow." Other than the words, "City Governor of Mound Hill City," and "Outer Court Deacon," written on the order token, Feng Hui's name was printed on it too. "Oh, it's Deacon Feng." When the two Moon Illumination sect disciples saw the order token, they smiled and welcomed Feng Wei right away. Although the Outer Court Deacon did not have much power within the sect, they were still only two Outer Court disciples, so they did not dare to act recklessly in front of an Outer Court Deacon. "The entrance assessment will only take place tomorrow, so take a good rest today and have a good night's sleep to recuperate and build up your energy so that you'll be able to perform in the entrance assessment tomorrow." Leading Duan Lingtian and the two others as they walked inside, Feng Wei told them, "Given the strength within the three of you, it's not difficult for you to pass the entrance assessment and become the Outer Court disciples of the sect." Soon, Feng Wei brought them to the peripheral area of the Moon Illumination sect estate. There were simple, shabby houses that were built specifically for those who came to join the entrance assessment to stay in. There was another row of houses that appeared to be more spacious and luxurious, but these houses were much fewer compared to those shabby houses. There were only 18 of them. After Feng Wei managed to find the person in charge and registered with him, he obtained 4 occupancy placards for 4 houses. The occupancy placard was to be hung on the door. The word, "inhabited," was written on it, indicating that that particular house was occupied so that other people would not enter it by mistake. As a flash glimpsed across Shanghu's eyes, he asked in a deep voice, "Master, will Su Qi join the entrance assessment tomorrow?" Since he has already become Lu Huan's disciple, he doesn't need to join any assessment anymore. Besides that, he'll even be able to enter the inner court sect and become an inner court disciple under Lu Huan's recommendation. Even though it had already been 6 months since the incident of Su Qi's betrayal took place, some peculiar emotions could still be seen on Feng Hui's face. "Traitor!" Shanghu spat angrily. "Shanghu!" Feng Wei frowned. "It's okay if you say these to yourself once you've entered the Moon Illumination sect, but remember, if you say it out loud, Lu Huan's people will never let you go that easily. The sect doesn't allow us to kill each other, so why would I, Shanghu, have to be scared of them?" Shanghu snapped with his eyes as huge as saucers. "All in all, make sure to keep a low profile as much as possible after the 3 of you have entered the sect. If Lu Huan's people find you 3 to be unperturbed, or if they feel you guys are boring, they'd then leave you alone," Feng Wei told them solemnly. "I don't wish to create a huge problem for you because of my sake." Quote, "Temporary tolerance is best for the sake of a better tomorrow. If we want to take revenge for our master, we'll first need to be more powerful. Otherwise, we'll just be bullied by the others," Ling Yun chimed in. "That's right," Feng Wei expressed full agreement with Ling Yun's words. Standing by the side, Duan Lingtian did not comment. The brilliance shining in his eyes were difficult to be interpreted. Tolerance. A sneer slowly crept upon the corner of his mouth. Duan Lingtian placed the "inhabited" occupancy placard outside the room. Being the earliest to arrive, all of the houses were still vacant, so he chose a house that had the best position and the best airflow. "The house that teacher stays in is different from ours, 18 houses, could they actually correspond to the 18 city governors under the command of the Moon Illumination sect?" After sweeping a glance across the 18 spacious houses, Duan Lingtian's heart gave a jolt as he speculated to himself. At that moment, be it Feng Wei, Ling Yun, or Shanghu, all of them had entered their respective houses one by one and closed their doors. With the "inhabited" placard hung on their doors, they made it clear that the houses that they were in were already occupied. Duan Lingtian also opened his door and entered his house. The house was simple and worn. Other than a small bed that could barely fit him, there was nothing else in the room. It was apparent that this house was even shabbier than the wooden houses that the 13 gangsters of the Latent Dragon camp had stayed in the city governor's estate of Mount Hill City. However, Duan Lingtian was not concerned by it at all. Compared to the extremely vile condition that he had stayed before in his past life, this was already like heaven. After closing the door, Duan Lingtian carefully inspected the house and noticed that the house was not completely airtight. Wind could blow in any time in every corner of the house. In this case, it'd be hard for me to set the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda up, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. As long as there was wind, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda would be affected and he would be expelled from it. Fine then, since it's only for a day, I might as well cultivate outside, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. As long as he passed the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect the next day, he would then become the outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect. If he was capable, he would be able to stay in the standalone small yard in the outer court. The reason, if he was capable, was used in that context was because the living conditions of the outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect was divided into various grades and ranks. Feng Wei had told them about it during the journey before. If one's ability was strong enough, then one would be able to stay in better conditions. Although I've yet to make a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage perfection stage, the true energy stored in my Qi is already more or less full now. With the help of my 52 saint veins, I can instantly mobilize all of my true energy. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. Even someone at the mortal shedding stage paramount stage wouldn't necessarily be able to surpass me when it comes to this. On top of that, I've also cultivated my defense technique, the silver shirt, to the highest level, the impeccable level. With my strength now, although I've yet to enter the mortal shedding stage perfection stage, I can already overpower many mortal shedding stage paramount stage martial and Dao cultivators. Duan Lingtian was confident about this. Bang! A loud explosion resonated and took him by surprise. At the same time, a gust of wind blew past and snapped him back to reality. His face turned grave right away. The loud bang came from somebody kicking the door while the wind was set off by the door being kicked open. Somebody had just kicked open the door of Duan Lingtian's house. At the same time, an insolent voice boomed from outside. It was a particularly ear-jabbing voice. Boy, I've taken a fancy on this house, so you'd better scram now. Chapter 1422. As Duan Lingtian walked out of the house solemnly, he saw an arrogant young man standing at his house entrance at first glance. He looked like he was the mightiest person in the world. Feng Wei, the city governor of Mount Hill City, Ling Yun, and Shang Hu heard the commotion when Duan Lingtian walked out of the house, so they came out to check out what the fuss was. A middle-aged man and 3 young men walked out the same time. They were undoubtedly strangers to Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian did not have his attention on them. He was looking at the arrogant young man before him. You feel a sense of achievement for kicking my house door to get me out, don't you? A cold gleam flashed through his eyes as he asked in his deep voice. So what if I do? Are you trying to go against my will? Xiao Zhui's will. The young man who called himself Xiao Zhui smirked while holding his head held like a king speaking to a peasant. He spoke in a condescending tone. If I were you, I'd get the hell out of here instead of speaking nonsense. The way Xiao Zhui looked at Duan Lingtian was filled with disdain as he spoke. It would be a disgrace for you to stay. The other 3 young men whispered among themselves. It was clear that they came from the same city as Xiao Zhui did. It seems like senior brother Xiao's lonely everywhere he goes. That's right, senior brother Xiao Zhui has always behaved like this even back when he was in Luozhong City. I didn't expect him to stay the same even when he's here at the Moon Illumination sect. Isn't he afraid that he'll put himself in an unfavorable situation for behaving like this? Put himself in an unfavorable situation? You're underestimating senior brother Xiao Zhui. He's the #1 genius among the younger generation around Luozhong City's borders. He broke through to Paramount Mortal Shedding stage when he was only 38. Luo Yi. Feng Wei looked at the middle-aged man nearby and said while frowning, isn't this disciple of yours too much? I don't think that my disciple has offended him. Luo Yi was the city governor of Luozhong City. Luozhong City was one of the 18 cities under the rule of the Moon Illumination sect and was on the same rank with Mount Hill City. The city governor's estate of Luozhong City was also an 8th-grade force that owned an 8th-grade Origin Stone Reserve. Feng Wei, I heard Elder Lu Huan has taken your most remarkable disciple, Su Qi, as his direct disciple. Congratulations to you. With that extraordinary relationship, I suppose whatever misgivings you've had with Elder Lu Huan have been reconciled now. Luo Yi said without holding back. As he grinned, he did not care about Feng Wei whose face was turning solemn gradually. Xiao Zhui's just interested in sparring with your disciple. Since people from both cities are here, isn't this the best thing to do to kill time? A grin remained on Luo Yi's face. He was totally hiding a dagger behind his smile. Fang Wei, don't tell me that you only have one disciple who's Su Qi. Fang Hui's face was turning more solemn as the way he looked at Luo Yi became fiercer and fiercer. However, Luo Yi, who had never gotten along with Fang Wei, ignored the look on his face. Seeing that Duan Lingtian's attention was lingering on Luo Yi and the three other young men from Luozhong City, Xiao Zhui's face turned sour as he shouted, "I'm speaking to you, you piece of trash. Didn't you hear me? Who's a piece of trash that you're calling?" Duan Lingtian asked calmly as soon as Xiao Zhui was done speaking. His tone was cold. "Calling you," Xiao Zhui responded by instinct in rage. "Ah, so a piece of trash is calling me." Duan Lingtian took a hard look at Xiao Zhui and nodded in all seriousness. "Haha, Senior Ling Yun, did you hear that? That brat just admitted that he's a piece of trash." Shang Hu guffawed out loud. His maniacal laugh broke the silence. A smile appeared on the edge of Ling Yun's lips. The three young men from Luozhong City looked at Xiao Zhui a little awkwardly. This kid's dead. However, there was sympathy in their eyes when they glanced at Duan Lingtian. They seemed to be able to see him being tortured by Xiao Zhui. "Fang Wei, is this direct disciple of yours only good in twisting words?" Luo Yi glanced at Fang Wei as he taunted. "I think your disciple's the one who's been talking non-stop since the beginning until now," Fang Wei mocked him back. Luo Yi's face turned solemn and he subsequently looked at Xiao Zhui while speaking to him through true energy voice transmission. "Xiao Zhui, teach this brat a lesson. From what I know, among Fang Hui's disciples, Su Qi's the only one who has broken through to Paramount Mortal shedding stage, but Elder Lu Huan took him away. This brat's definitely no match for you. Brat, you're bringing death upon yourself." Xiao Zhui, on the other hand, finally reacted after hearing Luo Yi's true energy voice transmission. He was furious as he dashed towards Duan Lingtian in an instant. At that moment, true energy spread all over Xiao Zhui's body as if he put on a layer of azure coat. Everywhere he passed by seemed to turn into sea waves beating at Duan Lingtian. Facing Xiao Zhui who was coming at him ferociously, Duan Lingtian did not have the intention to dodge. Instead, he stood where he was while his face was as composed as ever. "I'd love to see how long you'll be able to hold up with that face." Xiao Zhui looked threatening when he saw that Duan Lingtian did not flinch. He slapped his palm towards him like the Five Fingers Mountain pressing down on him. The rumbling airwaves that came from Xiao Zhui's palm shook the flowers and plants even 10 meters away. HMPH. Duan Lingtian finally moved as he scoffed coldly. As the 52 saint veins in his body rotated, the true energy traveled from his chi to his arm in a destructive manner. He attacked with his palm with silver rays dazzling from it. Fighting back with his palm against a person on Paramount Mortal shedding stage. He's digging his own grave. A smirk appeared on Luo Yi's lips as he witnessed that. He thought that this purple-clad brat from Mount Hill City overestimated himself. Did he really think he was Su Qi? Bang! As a loud thud exploded, Duan Lingtian's palm collided with Xiao Zhui's. A rampant airwave swept out with the two palms as its center point, seeming like a gush of strong wind was blown. Both of them stepped back in a flash at the same time. Duan Lingtian took 5 steps back while Xiao Zhui retreated 4 steps back. No wonder he's so arrogant. So, he's quite powerful himself. Xiao Zhui glanced at Duan Lingtian in surprise, but disdain soon appeared on his face. "I'll prove to you that you people from Mount Hill City are destined to be under my Luozhong City's folks' feet." A sword appeared in Xiao Zhui's hand as soon as he was done speaking. It was obvious that he was going to use a saint weapon to get it over with. The 4 Luozhong City people were astonished by the minor impact the collision of Duan Lingtian and Xiao Zhui's palms made. The 3 of them from Mount Hill City, on the other hand, seemed not to be surprised at all. "Fang Wei, I didn't expect you to have such an outstanding genius martial cultivator with you since Su Qi left Mount Hill City." Luo Yi looked at Fang Wei and threw him a cold blanket, noticing the smirk on his face. But this meager ability's no match for Xiao Zhui. Xiao Zhui's best with his swordsmanship. Best with his swordsmanship, Fang Wei was secretly laughing. Did this Luo Yi think that Duan Lingtian was best with his palm skill? Although Xiao Zhui's arrogant, he's really quite powerful. He's an even match for Su Qi whom I met half a year ago. The attack containing 80% of my strength only caused a breeze. Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked. Through the collision of the palms earlier, he was sure that without using any weapons or performing any saint-grade martial tactic techniques, the best outcome he and Xiao Zhui would have was a fair match. You're digging your own grave. However, he was glad to see Xiao Zhui bringing out a saint weapon in hopes of defeating him with that. One must know that his weapon was the major reason why he was confident of defeating many paramount mortal shedding stage martial cultivators and Dao cultivators. To be precise, his weapon was the sun-shooting bow. Although the sun-shooting bow would not be performing at its peak, it could not be compared with a mere human-rank saint weapon. A swing of a sword is all I'll need to defeat you, trash of Mount Hill City. Xiao Zhui swung his sword at lightning speed as he shouted. As his body synchronized with the speed of his sword, he seemed ethereal. It was hard to determine if his existence was real at that moment. Wherever the sword ray passed by, it seemed like blooming white flowers, seeming dazzling and beautiful. Plum blossom sword, Xiao Zhui mumbled softly while sparks were emitted from the sword ray of the sword in his hand. The sparks looked like plum blossoms during the cold winter. They were racing at Duan Lingtian like a sky full of stars toward his vulnerable body parts. Body and arrow synchronization, Duan Lingtian placed an arrow on a bow and shot the arrow. The body and arrow synchronization looked like it turned into a lightning bolt which allowed him to dodge Xiao Zhui's sword skill like a piece of cake. Synchronous shadow sword, Xiao Zhui proceeded to mutter as he chased Duan Lingtian who dodged his attack. The sword in his hand was like an enemy that was impossible to shake off, it would never leave Duan Lingtian alone. However, that was something that happened at the beginning. Soon, Duan Lingtian managed to stay a distance away. Xiao Zhui lost him when it came to the speed of the body movement technique. Oh no, witnessing that, Luo Yi who was full of confidence had a drastic change of expression. He initially thought that since Mount Hill City had lost Su Qi, nobody would be a match for this disciple of his. Never had he expected that Mount Hill City would have such a freak with them since they lost Su Qi. In the world of martial arts, there was almost no impregnable defense. Only swiftness was invincible. Swiftness shattered tens of thousands of techniques. As the city governor of Luojiang City, how would he not know the importance of speed? Xiao Zhui's in danger. Luo Yi looked at Fang Wei again, he could not help but have envy in his eyes. He wondered what had Fang Wei done to deserve Su Qi at first and for Su Qi to be taken away from him. Could Mount Hill City be in such insane luck? Clang. HMPH. Luo Yi had a bad feeling and his expression changed hearing the sound of colliding weapons accompanied by a deep groan. When he snapped back to his senses, he realized that his disciple, Xiao Zhui, whom he was proud of, was defeated by that purple-clad young man. Duan Lingtian shot the sword in Xiao Zhui's hand with an arrow. Not only that, the bowstring in Duan Lingtian's hand was now placed right in front of Xiao Zhui's neck. As soon as Duan Lingtian plucked the bowstring, Xiao Zhui's head would definitely be detached from his body. Don't show off when you don't have the ability to. Do you think you can prove how powerful you are by provoking me to gain others' attention and then defeat me? Is that going to feed your pride? Duan Lingtian looked disdainfully at Xiao Zhui who seemed terrible and said without holding back, actually, I have to thank you. Thank you for coming to me and giving me the opportunity to brag. Chapter 1423. The reason why Xiao Zhui was fighting over Duan Lingtian's house was firstly due to the ideal location of the house. Secondly, his master did not get along with the city governor of Mount Hill City. He was eyeing Duan Lingtian's house when he realized that the people from Mount Hill City were the only ones who had come earlier than they had. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Never had he thought the Mount Hill City disciple that he picked on was someone beyond his abilities, a person that he, Xiao Zhui, was no match against. Get lost! Duan Lingtian shouted in his deep voice and kicked the sallow Xiao Zhui away without any mercy. Even the nicest person has their limits. It made sense that Xiao Zhui would have to pay the price for advancing toward him and provoking him. Otherwise, people would think that he was a pushover. HMPH. Just when the three young men from Luojiang City changed their expressions, Luo Yi scoffed coldly and took a step forward. He was walking towards Duan Lingtian. Brat, how dare you hurt my man from Luojiang City? Luo Yi. Fang Wei stopped him as soon as Luo Yi took a step forward. Tisk tisk, are you, the city governor of Luojiang City, bullying a junior? If I remember correctly, I think you said earlier that they're sparring just to kill time. You agreed to that, didn't you? Fang Hui's words sobered Luo Yi up. He really did say that earlier. What, you said that earlier because you thought my Mount Hill City man is no match for your man from Luojiang City. Now that your man has lost, are you denying what you said? Feng Wei mocked. He was not afraid of Luo Yi since they were both outer court deacons of the Moon Illumination sect. Feng Wei, I'd never thought you'd have such great luck to have picked up such a freak after losing Su Qi. I hope he won't be like Su Qi for parting ways with you and go to Elder Lu Huan after becoming your disciple. Luo Yi scoffed in his deep voice as he gazed deeply into Duan Lingtian's eyes. I suppose, if Elder Lu Huan knows that you have such a disciple, he'll definitely not let go of him. Luo Yi smirked as he spoke while Fang Hui's expression changed drastically. To be honest, he was really concerned about that. He turned to Duan Lingtian by instinct and noticed that the latter was looking at him too. He was relieved when he saw the determination in Duan Lingtian's eyes. It depends if he's capable of doing that. Fang Wei glanced at Luo Yi and said while he smirked. Why don't you pick a house to heal yourself? Do you still want to embarrass yourself here? Luo Yi looked at Fang Wei coldly and subsequently looked at Xiao Zhui, who was in a terrible condition, as he said solemnly. Xiao Zhui took a deep breath in and glared at Duan Lingtian ferociously before getting himself a vacant house. Shang Hu took pleasure in his misery and teased him as he did that. So, this is all a Luo Zhang City genius has got, Shang Hu chuckled and said. What he said caused the people from Luo Zhang City to grow incredulous, but they were speechless. They could not fight back since the truth had been presented before their eyes. Unsure if Xiao Zhui embarrassed Luo Zhang City, or if they embarrassed themselves, or if they were fearful of Duan Lingtian, the three young men from Luo Zhang City returned to their houses respectively. Meanwhile, Luo Yi did not stay out for too long and he returned to his house too. However, he glanced at Duan Lingtian in all seriousness before he entered the house. A cold gleam with the will to kill flashed deep in his eyes. Naturally, Duan Lingtian noticed the murderous intention in Luo Yi's eyes. However, he did not care. His name's Luo Yi and he's the city governor of Luo Zhang City. At that moment, Fang Wei revealed Luo Yi's identity. He was Lu Hui's lackey in the sect back then. Because of Lu Huan, we've never gotten along. Duan Lingtian and the other two came to a realization upon hearing what Fang Wei said. It seems like that Xiao Zhui provoked Duan Lingtian on purpose. Unfortunately, he bit off more than he could chew. Shang Hu snickered as he took pleasure in Xiao Zhui's misery. Ling Yun, on the other hand, said nothing, but his expression was serious. Xiao Zhui was a young genius from Luo Zhang City and he was on paramount mortal shedding stage. The fact that Xiao Zhui had such a cultivation base pressured him to a certain extent. He was only on perfection mortal shedding stage after all. Ling Yun, don't stress about it. I heard that Xiao Zhui's 38 now while you're only in your early 30s. You'll definitely surpass him when you're 38. Fang Wei seemed to notice that Ling Yun was deep in thought, so he comforted him. Ling Yun's face relaxed after hearing Fang Hui's comforting words. That was right, Xiao Zhui was already 38 while he was only 31. In 7 years' time, paramount mortal shedding stage aside, he would even have the confidence to break through to Saint Rudiment stage. Luo Yi thought he could get his disciple to trample us just because we Mount Hill City don't have Su Qi anymore. It's liberating whenever I think of his expression that he had earlier. Fang Wei grinned, which was a rare phenomenon, as he recalled what happened earlier. As time passed by, more and more people were coming. These people were either the city governors coming from the 16 cities under the rule of the Moon Illumination sect together with the young geniuses that they brought, or the young geniuses the outer court elders and deacons of Moon Illumination sect brought. At that moment, the housing area became crowded. Although Duan Lingtian heard the noise out there, he did not have any intention of joining the crowd. He lay on the bed quietly while thoughts were flying in his head. Out of the blue, he was thinking of his 2 fiancées and the children in their wombs that were yet to be born. He thought of his parents and wondered where they were right now. He thought of Han Shuinai and questioned if that girl was looking for him. At that same time, he thought of the 3 little fellas. He thought of Lingtian sect, the overseas Saint Islands and the Cloud Continent. As time went by, he recalled his past life. It seemed like his past life of blood and sweat was far away from him as he recollected it now. There's always someone better no matter where you are. I've always thought Martial Emperor ruled the world back then. I only found out that what I knew back then was just a joke when I came to the Cloud Continent. Martial Emperor's the equivalence of the innate void restoration stage martial cultivator. It's worth nothing when someone like that is placed on Dao Martial Saint Land. Also, the environment of Dao Martial Saint Land has a major difference compared to the mortal continents. It's hard to imagine that the 2 places are on the same planet. Duan Lingtian exclaimed secretly. The sky turned dark without him even realizing it. Duan Lingtian did not cultivate that night. Instead, he had a deep sleep. He slept all the way to the next morning until he heard Shanghu calling him outside. Senior brother Duan, it's time to leave. Duan Lingtian saw Shangwei waiting for him outside when he opened the door. Where are teacher and Ling Yun? Teacher and Ling Yun are waiting for you over there, Shanghu said. Duan Lingtian left the house and noticed that many people had departed their houses one after another. They were going towards the Moon Illumination Sect estate together. There were middle-aged and old people among the crowd. There were more young people, less than a tenth of whom were women. Duan Lingtian could understand that. No matter whether it was on the Cloud Continent or Dao Martial Saint Land, females were born to be weaker and were not as good as males in some aspects. Naturally, there were also female geniuses who were more powerful than many male geniuses. However, the number of female geniuses was far behind male geniuses when compared. After meeting Feng Wei and Ling Yun, Duan Lingtian realized they were the last batch to depart. Most of the people were already ahead of them, heading towards the Moon Illumination Sect. Teacher, why aren't you guys flying? Shanghu asked curiously. At that moment, Duan Lingtian also noticed that nobody was flying. Everyone was walking on the ground like everyone else. He was not taking the young ones into account. They were not on the Saint Rudiment stage or above after all, so they were more or less limited by the Moon Illumination Sect's flight prohibiting formation. Duan Lingtian had found out about the flight prohibiting formation yesterday. Entering the door of the Moon Illumination Sect would mean entering the flight prohibiting formation. The flight prohibiting formation in this sect's even more advanced than the one in our Mount Hill City. You have to be a Saint stage powerhouse to be able to fly in the sect, Feng Wei explained. I see. Shanghu came to a realization as Duan Lingtian got the answer to his question too. The flight prohibiting formation is magical, Saint stage. There seems to be only a handful of them in the entire Moon Illumination Sect. That means there's only a few of them who could fly in the Moon Illumination Sect's air. Eventually, they arrived at a vast square after following the crowd. There was a high stone platform in the middle of the square. The stone platform was massive. It was as big as a football field from the planet where Duan Lingtian lived in his past life. There were an old man and two middle-aged men standing on the stone platform at the moment. The two middle-aged men stood behind the old man while the old man took the lead. So many people. Duan Lingtian looked around when he arrived near the stone platform. He noticed many people gathering around. There were close to 200 people. Apart from the city governors from the 18 cities, the 180 or so people were the young geniuses who were there to participate in the entry assessment of the Moon Illumination Sect. They were exuberant and confident. On average, each city brought 10 young geniuses. Master, did Mount Hill City bring too few people? Luozhong City too, they seem to have only brought 4 young geniuses, Shanghu commented while feeling a little puzzled. Not all of these young geniuses come from the 18 cities, Feng Wei said while shaking his head. More than half of them are the young geniuses found by the sect's outer court elders and deacons. They sure worked very hard to have found so many young geniuses, Shanghu gushed after his jaw dropped. The young geniuses that they found will be their outer court disciples as long as they pass the assessment. They'll be given a massive amount of merit points from the head count. Why wouldn't they work hard? Feng Wei did not find that surprising. Merit points. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up upon hearing Feng Wei. He had heard much earlier that the merit points in Mount Hill City could be used in the Moon Illumination Sect too. Moreover, the items and the Saint-grade martial tactics that were exchangeable in the Moon Illumination Sect were even more advanced than those in Mount Hill City. It made sense when one thought about it. Mount Hill City was only an 8th-rate force after all, while the Moon Illumination Sect was a 7th-rate force. Not only that, it was a 7th-rate force that ruled Mount Hill City. Chapter 1424. Look, it's the fellas from Luozhong City. Shanghu's eyes were sharp and he pointed out loudly when he noticed them. Duan Lingtian and the other 2 of them looked towards Shanghu's line of sight and saw the 5 of them from Luozhong City standing far away. Their city governor Luo Yi was the leader of the pack. Luo Yi seemed to notice them watching him, so he turned around. He squinted when he noticed that it was them looking. Soon, a cunning grin appeared at the edge of his lips. Feng Wei saw that grin, which caused his heart to drop. He knew Luo Yi well enough that he was not someone to underestimate. He must be plotting against his 3 disciples to be grinning like this. Please be cautious when the 3 of you get into the sect. Although killing is prohibited in the sect, there are millions of ways for people to harm all of you, Feng Wei reminded Duan Lingtian and the other two after inhaling a deep breath. The three of them nodded. Yo, isn't that Duan Lingtian? Suddenly, a voice came from far away and was getting closer and closer. When Duan Lingtian turned around skeptically, he realized that a young man had already arrived before him. It was a young man in black robes whose face seemed cool while an eerie aura lingered all over his body. His aura made people feel uncomfortable. After taking a good look at the young man before him for a while, Duan Lingtian asked, feeling unsure, "Are you, Yi Man?" The young man was vastly different from the young man from his memories. Therefore, he was not sure if he was the person he thought. "It seems like your memory's not that shabby after all, for you to remember me, Yi Man." "What, isn't Guo Li here?" Yi Man's lips curved into a spooky grin while a horrifying, cold gleam shone in his eyes. Yi Man was one of the first human martial cultivators Duan Lingtian had met when he arrived near Dao Martial Saint Land back then. He had been with Guo Li and Lin Qingrong at that time. He was also the most outstanding disciple of the Yi clan in Fuyu town, whereby his cultivation base only lost out to Guo Li among the younger generation in the town. Initially, Lin Qingrong was going to bring Guo Li and Yi Man back to the city governor's estate of Mount Hill City. However, appearing halfway, Duan Lingtian had gotten Yi Man disqualified from Lin Qingrong's list since he had a limited quota and had to follow the rules of picking the winner over the loser. Never had Duan Lingtian thought he would see Yi Man here. One must know that Yi Man's ability was lower than Guo Li's. Where did he get his confidence from? Curiously, Duan Lingtian activated his divine eye. One glance was all it took to make his heart pump fast. How is this possible? Yi Man has already broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. Duan Lingtian was filled with shock and disbelief. He remembered that Guo Li and Yi Man were both martial cultivators on the intermediate mortal shedding stage when they had met a year ago. Today, even Guo Li was only on the mastery mortal shedding stage. Meanwhile, how could Yi Man, whose talent was below Guo Li's, have broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage? This Yi Man doesn't seem like he's just broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. I'm afraid his ability surpasses even Xiao Zhui from Luozhong City. Even Su Qi might not be a match for him. Truth be told, Duan Lingtian was a little terrified. If he were to fight the current Yi Man out of nowhere, he did not dare to say he had the confidence to do that. It was hard for Duan Lingtian to imagine that the person who he had defeated in a single blow a year ago would have the ability to scare him a year later. What exactly happened to Yi Man throughout the past year? Does he know Guo Li? Shang Hu was a little surprised. Duan Lingtian, is he a friend of yours and Guo Li's? Yes, we're old friends who haven't seen each other for a long time, especially Duan Lingtian. I've missed him a lot throughout the year that we parted ways. Yi Man smiled a little eerily, giving one goosebumps. At that moment, even Shang Hu noticed that something was off. Feng Wei looked at Yi Man with the slightest fear and asked while frowning at the moment, "A devil cultivator?" Devil cultivator? What Feng Wei said made Ling Yun and Shang Hu's expressions change slightly. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, only revealed a flash of surprise on his face. He realized that there was a commotion happening within the Devilseal tablet when he exerted his conscience into his spatial ring. The tablet seemed to have detected something. At that moment, Duan Lingtian was sure of that Yi Man had gone on the path of Devil Dao and become a devil cultivator. Everything made sense now. A devil cultivator's cultivation speed was beyond logic. At that very second, the fear Duan Lingtian had for Yi Man disappeared. It was no joke. With his current cultivation base, he might be able to put a Paramount Saint Rudiment stage devil cultivator to an end with the help of the Devilseal tablet, let alone a Paramount Mortal shedding stage devil cultivator. I suppose this is City Governor Fang from Mount Hill City. Yi Man looked pointedly at Feng Wei and grinned. City Governor Fang, your underling Lin Qingrong let me go a year ago. I wouldn't be who I am today if Lin Qingrong hadn't let me go back then. That's why I've made up my mind to take good care of your Mount Hill City people after getting into the Moon Illumination sect. Yi Man's eyes were observing Shang Hu and Ling Yun in an amusing manner as he spoke. It caused Shang Hu's expression to change while Ling Yun looked serious. Devil cultivators always had a rapid cultivation speed and they were known for their tyrannical character. Even they were afraid of him. Moreover, they could feel that the devil cultivator before them had a powerful ability that they were no match for. Feng Wei, on the other hand, was frowning. He felt Yi Man's ill intentions at that moment. Since we know each other, I'll take good care of you too. Duan Lingtian glanced at Yi Man calmly and said with a wry smile. Feng Wei and the other two could not help but be stunned by Duan Lingtian's response. You'll take care of me? Yi Man was amazed at first and subsequently, he smiled. His smile was even more frightful now. I'll be anticipating it then. Unfortunately, Guo Li isn't here. It'd be perfect if she were. Yi Man ignored Duan Lingtian after he was done speaking and left, pivoting around. Although he could not wait to tear Duan Lingtian into a million pieces, he knew it was not the best time to do anything to him. Otherwise, he might be disqualified from participating in the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect. Furthermore, the city governor of Mount Hill City was there. It was hard for him to kill Duan Lingtian at that moment. Therefore, he did not rush things. Would Duan Lingtian not be a piece of meat on his chopping board where he could cut him however he wanted when they got into the Moon Illumination sect? Shang, who felt like a cloud of haze had lifted when Yi Man left. He could not help but ask Duan Lingtian while looking at him, "Senior brother Duan, how do you and Guo Li know this devil cultivator?" It happened a year ago. Duan Lingtian told him everything about meeting Lin Qingrong, Guo Li, and Yi Man a year ago. He even told him the details of their relationship without holding back. You mean that Yi Man wasn't a devil cultivator back then? Feng Wei asked while frowning. Definitely not. Duan Lingtian shook his head. He was like a completely different person compared to a year ago. I couldn't recognize him at first when I saw him just now. The changes are too drastic. It seems like he's gotten into Devil Dao, which caused his cultivation base to skyrocket, Shanghu commented while looking petrified. But does the Moon Illumination sect take devil cultivators? At that moment, not only Shanghu but even Duan Lingtian and Ling Yun were also gawking at Feng Wei. They were curious about that too. The sect doesn't usually reject devil cultivators as long as they aren't outrageous. There are actually quite a few devil cultivators in the sect, Feng Wei said. Soon, Feng Wei snapped back to his senses and said through true energy voice transmission, Duan Lingtian, although Yi Man was no match for you a year ago, since he's a devil cultivator now, you can't judge him using logic. His abilities might have surpassed yours now. If you see him again, avoid him as much as you can. Never fight him forcefully, Feng Wei reminded patiently. I have a feeling that his abilities even more powerful than Xiao Zhui's from Luozhong City. Although he did not use the spiritual secret tactic to check Yi Man's cultivation base, Feng Wei could roughly estimate Yi Man's cultivation base judging from the aura on his body. He's on the Saint Rudiment stage, Shanghu exclaimed. If he isn't on the Saint Rudiment stage, he should be on the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage. However, if he's a devil cultivator, it's a piece of cake for him to get to the Saint Rudiment stage, Feng Wei said while shaking his head. His judgment and wisdom were revealed as he spoke. But his abilities even more powerful than Xiao Zhui's from Luozhong City, Feng Wei looked serious as he conversed further. Is he that powerful? Shanghu inhaled sharply while Ling Yun looked terrified. Duan Lingtian was the only one who looked calm. It was as if he would behave the same even if Mount Tai were to collapse before him. To him, whether Yi Man was a Paramount Mortal Shedding stage or a Saint Rudiment Devil cultivator, there was no difference since he would be crushed to smithereens when Duan Lingtian activated the Devil Seal tablet. Duan Lingtian, please don't be reckless, reminded Feng Wei while frowning when he saw that Duan Lingtian was so calm. He thought that Duan Lingtian was underestimating his foe. Everyone, please be quiet. Suddenly, an old voice rang out. It contained true energy which took over the noisy ambiance. The scene regained its silence temporarily. It was so quiet that they could hear if a needle were to drop on the ground. At the same time, everyone including Duan Lingtian was looking at the old man standing on the vast stone platform. He was surrounded by the two middle-aged men like a celebrity. Welcome to all of you who are participating in our Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment. I won't beat around the bush. I'll be announcing the assessment's rules, I'll make it short. The old man proceeded to speak after hushing the crowd. Our Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment is divided into two sections. The first section will involve us performing the spiritual secret tactic to check on the participant's age and cultivation base. Geniuses below 40 with a cultivation base on the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage and above will pass the first section of the assessment immediately. Those below 40 who are on the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage can skip the second section of the assessment and pass directly to become our outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect. Chapter 1425. Since we're done with the rules, I'll introduce myself now. My name's Dong Chong and I'm the outer court elder of the Moon Illumination sect. My main responsibility is to coordinate the transfer of the outer court members, the old man said slowly. The rules. Hearing the rules Dong Chong listed, Duan Lingtian could not help but frown. They'll be examining the participants with the spiritual secret tactic. Only those who are below 40 and on the perfection mortal shedding stage will pass the first section of the assessment. Although his current battling abilities could be compared to an ordinary paramount mortal shedding stage cultivator, his cultivation base was only on the mastery mortal shedding stage. There was nowhere for him to conceal his cultivation base if he was being examined with the spiritual secret tactic. Senior brother Duan, your cultivation base is only the mastery mortal shedding stage. According to the rules that old man shared, doesn't that mean that you won't even pass the first section? Shang Hu frowned and said in a condemning manner, what kind of stupid rules does this moon illumination sect assessment have whereby they judge on just one's cultivation base and not one's battling abilities? Isn't that a rip-off? Both Shang Hu and Ling Yun knew that Duan Lingtian had broken through to the mastery mortal shedding stage. Naturally, they also knew that despite their senior brother Duan's cultivation base only being on the mastery mortal shedding stage, his battling ability was undefeatable if he were to fight anyone below the paramount mortal shedding stage. Even an ordinary paramount mortal shedding stage person might not be a match for their senior brother Duan. Ling Yun could not help but frown too. If their senior brother Duan could not even pass the entry assessment of the Moon Illumination sect, that would be the biggest joke anyone had ever heard. Don't worry, Fang Wei reassured while smiling at Duan Lingtian and the other two who were frowning. Duan Lingtian might not be able to pass the first section of the assessment, but it isn't hard for him to pass the second section. The second section? Duan Lingtian and the other two looked at Fang Wei doubtfully upon hearing what he said. Since Dong Chong had yet to ascertain the exact contents of the second section of the assessment, they had no idea what it was going to be. In order not to stifle any talents, the sect gives young geniuses below the perfection mortal shedding stage a chance. Even if they fail the first section, they'll be able to enter the sect as long as they pass the second section of the assessment, Fang Wei said. Those who are on the paramount mortal shedding stage don't have to go for the second section. Meanwhile, those who are on the perfection mortal shedding stage will have to go to the second section as a target. Those who fail the first section will go to the second section to challenge the target. As long as they defeat the target, they'll pass the assessment and get into the sect directly, Fang Wei continued. Meanwhile, those on the perfection mortal shedding stage who are challenged and defeated will lose their opportunity to enter the sect. Fang Wei took the lead to explain the assessment rules to them before Dong Chong did. When Dong Chong was done speaking, the bunch of young geniuses gasped. Gasp. The 18 city governors including Fang Wei, on the other hand, did not find it surprising as they knew the rules much earlier. That means that people on the perfection mortal shedding stage only stand one chance. Will they be disqualified when they're defeated and lose their opportunity to enter the Moon Illumination sect? That's incredibly cruel. There are no more chances for those who are defeated. That's understandable. A person who has a mediocre cultivation base and doesn't have the ability to defeat a perfection mortal shedding stage cultivator is proven to have a pathetic future. But it's quite impossible for such a situation to happen. It's usually impossible for a person below the perfection mortal shedding stage to defeat someone on the perfection mortal shedding stage. That's true. If the person's defeated by someone else below the perfection mortal shedding stage, that'd mean he lacks skills. He deserves to be disqualified. Everyone discussed among themselves, slowly coming to accept the rules. That's more reasonable. Duan Lingtian was relieved to find out about the second section of the assessment. To him, it was not difficult to defeat people on the perfection mortal shedding stage. Soon, the entry assessment of the Moon Illumination sect officially started the moment the outer court elder Dong Chong officiated it. The young geniuses recommended by each of the city governors from the 18 cities under the ruling of the Moon Illumination sect as well as those recommended by the Moon Illumination sect outer court elders and deacons walked up to the stone platform one after another. They were divided into groups of 10 while being examined by the two middle-aged men behind Dong Chong. The two men were the outer court deacons of the Moon Illumination sect. Naturally, they looked like they were examining them on the surface. In reality, they were checking the young geniuses' age and cultivation base with their spiritual secret tactic. 36. Perfection mortal shedding stage. Pass. 34. Perfection mortal shedding stage. Pass. The first 10 young geniuses passed the first section of the assessment. Don't tell me that I'm the only martial cultivator who isn't above the perfection mortal shedding stage among these bunch of young people. Duan Lingtian could not help but force a smile facing the results. There should be quite a number of Master Immortal shedding stage martial cultivators. As a person who had been through this, Feng Wei knew much more than Duan Lingtian did. In Dao Martial Saint Land, there are many talented martial cultivators who can defeat people whose level are above theirs, but those Master Immortal shedding stage martial cultivators that I've seen before could only defeat ordinary perfection mortal shedding stage martial cultivators. Feng Wei gazed deeply into Duan Lingtian's eyes as he spoke. He seemed to be telling Duan Lingtian that not every Master Immortal shedding stage martial cultivators were as freaky as Duan Lingtian, who could defeat people on the paramount mortal shedding stage. Just like what Feng Wei said, there were 2 people on the Master Immortal shedding stage among the second batch of young geniuses who did not pass the first section of the assessment. However, they did not give up hope. It was clear that they saw that coming. Their goal was the challenge in the second section. Only the participants who were disqualified in the first session would stand a chance to take the challenge in the second section. There were more people on the Master Immortal shedding stage among the third batch of young geniuses, which occupied half of them. There were even less in the fourth batch. Shang Hu exclaimed absurdly when the fifth batch of young geniuses went up, "It's that fella." Hearing Shang Hu exclaim, Duan Lingtian and the other 3 looked at the stone platform in front of them and noticed Yi Man among the 10 of them. Yi Man stood there with an eerie aura lingering around his body, which made him seem out of place compared to the other 9 young geniuses. The other 9 young geniuses deliberately kept a distance from him. A devil cultivator. This young man's a devil cultivator. Tisk tisk, devil cultivators, cultivation bases usually defy logic. I wonder how old he is and what's his cultivation base. His age and cultivation base must be shocking. Let's see. A lot of attention focused on Yi Man. An uproar broke among the crowd as one of the middle-aged men following the outer court elder, Dong Chong, spoke, 30, paramount mortal shedding stage. The middle-aged man was talking about Yi Man. He lives up to the devil cultivator's name. He's only 30 and he has already broken through to paramount mortal shedding stage. Marvelous. Simply marvelous. He's even more powerful than I imagined. The event came to its climax at the moment. Yi Man was the first paramount mortal shedding stage in the Moon Illumination Sect's entry assessment today. He was placed in the limelight as expected. Besides the other 9 young geniuses who were standing with them, even the young geniuses who passed the first section of the assessment dimmed in his presence. Yi Man looked smug and arrogant as he stood on the stone platform. He enjoyed being in the limelight. At the same time, his condescending eyes were trained on Duan Lingtian. He was looking down on him. Duan Lingtian, you're destined to be under my feet throughout your life. Yi Man spoke through true energy voice transmission, as cocky as ever. However, Duan Lingtian did not bother as his expression remained the same. He only glanced at Yi Man lightly, unable to be bothered by him. To him, Yi Man was just a man that he had defeated. He was just a man that he had defeated in the past, now and even in the future. Who was he to boast since he was just a man Duan Lingtian had defeated? Duan Lingtian's behavior caused Yi Man to look completely solemn. Never had he expected Duan Lingtian to dare to ignore him even now. At that moment, Yi Man felt that the raging fire in him would explode anytime. Duan Lingtian, I swear I'm not a man if I don't kill you. A ferocious gleam filled Yi Man's eyes as he mumbled softly while clenching his teeth. Since Yi Man was on the paramount mortal shedding stage, he skipped the second section of the assessment directly. An outer court disciple brought him to the outer court area of the Moon Illumination Sect's estate. Yi Man was the first among the crowd of young geniuses to pass the entry assessment and become a disciple of the Moon Illumination Sect. Senior brother Duan, Yi Man was looking at you as if he couldn't wait to eat you. How huge of a rivalry are the both of you in exactly? Although Yi Man was not looking at him, Shang Hu felt chills running up his spine anyway. To a petty person, even the smallest conflict could be treated as vengeance, as though his father had been killed or his wife was being taken away. How big of a rivalry do you think we have? Duan Lingtian asked him back. Shang Hu was speechless. The murder of one's father and one's wife being taken away was the biggest vengeance in the world. Duan Lingtian, be careful of Yi Man when you get into the sect. There are no kind souls among the devil cultivators, especially since he might have turned himself into a devil because of you. Feng Wei said in all seriousness, if martial cultivators and Dao cultivators are going into devil Dao for a certain obsession, then they only have 2 paths ahead of them. The first path is to get rid of the obsession and go on with their lives. If they don't manage to get rid of the obsession, they'll either go into psychosis or if the situation's serious, be engulfed by devil chi and killed. Fang Wei had taken the effort to learn about devil cultivators back then. He even had the thought of going into devil Dao and becoming a devil cultivator for the sake of taking revenge when his wife died because of Lu Huan back then. He had that thought because that was the only way he could take revenge. However, his wife seemed to have guessed what he had in mind, so she wrote him a note before committing suicide. She asked him to never go into devil Dao. Otherwise, she would not die in peace. No matter how much hatred Fang Wei had and how much he wanted to take revenge, he could not bring himself to go against her death wish since she had died in such a devastating way. I've heard of that before. Shang Hu looked at Duan Lingtian. If his obsession of going into devil Dao is to kill senior brother Duan, then senior brother Duan's his enemy for life. He would either kill senior brother Duan or kill himself if he doesn't achieve his goal. Chapter 1426. That's the insane part about devil cultivators. It's also the scariest thing about devil cultivators. Shang Hu was serious as he spoke. Enemy for life. However, Duan Lingtian had disdain written all over his face when he heard what Shang Hu said. He's not worth it. Duan Lingtian had just expressed a genuine thought. He was a mortal shedding stage martial cultivator with a devil seal tablet. As long as he did not encounter a powerful devil cultivator above the saint stage, given his current cultivation base, he could easily kill any devil cultivator by activating the devil seal tablet. Even if it were a paramount saint rudiment stage devil cultivator, unless he lost the opportunity to use the devil seal tablet, he could definitely kill the latter as well. The devil seal tablet was listed as one of the 10 super saint weapons among the 10 great saint weapon ranking. It gave Duan Lingtian undefeatable confidence. However, since Fang Wei did not know about the existence of the devil seal tablet, he reminded Duan Lingtian immediately, seeing that he seemed to ignore Shang Hu. Duan Lingtian, please don't be reckless. Duan Lingtian was his sole hope. He did not want anything to happen to him as a result of underestimating Yi Man. Meanwhile, Ling Yun gazed deeply into Duan Lingtian's eyes. He saw a steadfast determination in his eyes. It was a tenacious kind of confidence. I wonder what senior brother Duan has for him not to take Yi Man seriously. Although Ling Yun noticed Duan Lingtian was up to something, he would never have expected Duan Lingtian to have the devil seal tablet, which was one of the 10 great saint weapons in Dao martial saint land. The first section of the assessment went on. There were many martial cultivators on the paramount mortal shedding stage since Yi Man, but they were all above 35 years old and their talents were incomparable to Yi Man's. The fellas from Luojiang City are up too. Shang Hu's sharp eyes noticed the 4 young geniuses from Luojiang City, including Xiao Zhui, go up the stone platform. Duan Lingtian turned to look too. It was a piece of cake for Duan Lingtian to find out the trio's cultivation base apart from Xiao Zhui's with the help of the divine eye. 2 of them were on the perfection mortal shedding stage while the other was on the mastery mortal shedding stage. Xiao Zhui, on the other hand, was a martial cultivator on the paramount mortal shedding stage. Not only did he pass the first section of the assessment, but he also did not even have to participate in the second section. He passed the assessment immediately and become an outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect. As for the other 3, the 2 on the perfection mortal shedding stage passed the first section while the one on the mastery mortal shedding stage failed. The city governor of Luojiang City, Luo Yi, saw that coming, so he was not surprised by the results. At the moment, among the 4 young geniuses from Luojiang City, Xiao Zhui left with the outer court disciple of the Moon Illumination sect while the 2 on the perfection mortal shedding stage stayed on the stone platform. On the other hand, the mastery mortal shedding stage cultivator returned to Luo Yi. It's time for those who are from Mount Hill City to go up. A fierce gleam flashed through Luo Yi's eyes as he looked at the people from Mount Hill City, including Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, Shang Hu, and Ling Yun were among the people from the last batch to go up. They were the 19th batch and there were only 7 people in that batch. What? He's only on the mastery mortal shedding stage. How's that possible? Luo Yi's jaw dropped when the results of the examination for Duan Lingtian and the rest was announced. Apart from Luo Yi, the young genius from Luojiang City standing next to him was flabbergasted too. Was the young genius from Mount Hill City who defeated Xiao Zhui only a martial cultivator on the mastery mortal shedding stage just like him? Oh God, could they be dreaming? The 2 martial cultivators on the perfection mortal shedding stage from Luojiang City standing on the stone platform froze. The day before that, they had witnessed Duan Lingtian defeat Xiao Zhui with their very own eyes. Xiao Zhui was the #1 genius among the younger generation in Luozhong City. His cultivation base had broken through the paramount mortal shedding stage, but he had been defeated by Duan Lingtian. Before this, they were almost sure that Duan Lingtian was a martial cultivator on the paramount mortal shedding stage. However, the truth gave them a tight slap. Such a young genius from Mount Hill City was only a martial cultivator on the mastery mortal shedding stage. Apart from the few of them from Luozhong City, the rest did not find it odd. After all, there were 55 of them on the mastery mortal shedding stage among the 187 participants of the entrance assessment. The remaining 132 of them were above the perfection mortal shedding stage, 12 of whom were on the paramount mortal shedding stage. The 120 people on the perfection mortal shedding stage stood on the stone platform while waiting for the second section of the assessment to take place. Most of the 55 mastery mortal shedding stage cultivators below the stone platform were ready to fight as they observed the 120 perfection mortal shedding stage cultivators on the stone platform one by one to pick the target that they wanted to challenge. At that moment, they were determined to look for a target who they were confident to defeat. After all, they were only given one chance for the challenge. Once they failed, they would have to bid farewell to the Moon Illumination sect. If they succeeded, they would pass the entrance assessment of the Moon Illumination sect and become the outer court disciple of the sect. Their destiny depended on this fight. The atmosphere gradually became heavy. Almost all of the young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage who dared to go there had complete confidence in themselves. Otherwise, they would not be there. Therefore, some of the 120 young people on the stone platform were anxious although they were on the perfection mortal shedding stage, especially because they had just broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage recently. They did not have much of an upper hand when it came to true energy and they only had a slight advantage in terms of the amount of saint veins in their bodies. How is that possible? How is it possible that he's only on the mastery mortal shedding stage? There must be a mistake with the spiritual secret tactic. The four from Luozhong City thought to themselves again and again as their eyes lingered on Duan Lingtian. They still could not believe that this young genius from Mount Hill City was only a martial cultivator on the mastery mortal shedding stage. Now, everyone below the platform, please stand on the right. Please empty the left for the young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who have to leave the stone platform after their defeat, instructed the outer court elder, Dong Chong, loud and clear from the vast stone platform. At that moment, everyone moved to their right, leaving a gaping, empty space on the left. I'll be explaining the details of the second section of the assessment. The young geniuses who are disqualified in the first section can come up to the stone platform to pick your opponent. You'll pass our entrance assessment and become our outer court disciple as long as you defeat your opponent. Of course, everyone who gets onto the stone platform isn't allowed to pick young geniuses from the same city that they come from. I hope everyone can understand that we do this to avoid participants from the same city giving in to each other. Also, those young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who are defeated will blow their chance with the Moon Illumination sect for the next 5 years. Unless you're still below 40 years old in 5 years, then you're welcome to participate in our Moon Illumination sect entrance assessment by then. Otherwise, you'll have no luck with our Moon Illumination sect for the rest of your life. Dong Chong's deafening voice spread out and was heard by everyone. The young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage standing on the stone platform would lose their chance with the Moon Illumination sect as soon as they were beaten. That unnerved many young geniuses on the stone platform. What is there to be afraid of? They're just a bunch of fellas who haven't even broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage, so why are you guys worried that you'll be defeated by them? That's right, if you can't even defeat those fellas below the stage, you're embarrassing those who are on the perfection mortal shedding stage. No matter what, I have the confidence to crush anyone below the perfection mortal shedding stage. Many of the young geniuses on the stone platform were confident about themselves. They thought it was impossible that the young geniuses below the stone platform who were disqualified in the first section to be a match for them. When the second section of the assessment commences, the young geniuses below the platform will come up one by one. If you win the challenge, someone will bring you to register as an outer court disciple of our Moon Illumination. If you fail, please go to the area on the left, Dong Chong proceeded to speak. The area on the left was the space that was made vacant earlier. It was empty at the moment. It would be a clear differentiation for the losers to go there. Now, I shall announce that the second section of the assessment has officially begun. As soon as Dong Chong was done speaking, a young genius below the platform dashed onto the stone platform. He stood there and glanced at the 120 young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage. I'll challenge you. Soon, he picked his target. It was a young genius who was the same age as him. However, he was overthrown in less than 10 hits. Ah, I'm in such bad luck. Can't believe I picked a tough one. The mastery mortal shedding stage young genius forced a smile after being defeated and subsequently admitted that he had lost. He jumped off the high platform and stood on the area on the left. One person stood in the disqualification zone on the left now. Subsequently, more and more young geniuses dashed onto the stone platform. By activating his divine eye, Duan Lingtian realized that all of these young geniuses were on the mastery mortal shedding stage. There was nobody on the intermediate mortal shedding stage, let alone the early mortal shedding stage. It makes sense, it's almost impossible for people below the mastery mortal shedding stage to pass this entrance assessment if they participated. Duan Lingtian did not find that odd. As time passed by, high-spirited young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage went up to the high platform one after another to challenge the young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage. Soon, all 23 young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage lost the challenge without any exception. HMPH. They're just on the mastery mortal shedding stage. It'd be impossible if they could defeat us since we're on the perfection mortal shedding stage. We'll defeat all of those who come to us no matter how many there are. The bunch of young geniuses on the perfection mortal shedding stage who had yet to taste failure on the stone platform were still pumped up. At the moment, none of the young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage below the stone platform had gone up the platform. The failed attempts of the 23 people affected their will to a certain extent. These people on the mastery mortal shedding stage are just tiny little ants that should be stomped under our feet without any hopes of getting up forever. A young man in green with a graceful face and a high-pitched voice glanced at the young geniuses below the platform in disdain while holding a hand fan. Ants, being stomped under your feet, without any hopes of getting up forever. As the young geniuses below the platform flew into a rage, a cold gleam flashed through Duan Lingtian's eyes. He smirked mockingly and subsequently raced onto the stone platform as if he had turned into a bolt of lightning. Duan Lingtian was put in the limelight that very second. Chapter 1427. Come, stomp on me below your feet so that there's no hope for me to get up forever, taunted Duan Lingtian as he stood on the stone platform, looking at the green-clad young man who had been boasting earlier. It was obvious that the young man who looked graceful did not expect anyone to get up onto the stone platform because of what he said. After a moment of seeming lost, he stepped forward while smirking arrogantly. Confidence is awesome, but if you have too much of it, that would turn into arrogance. Do you think you're that different from the other 23 who took the challenge earlier? Do you think you can defeat me and pass the Moon Illumination Sect's entrance assessment? The young man in green ridiculed in his high-pitched voice, "Brat, it's not that I look down on you, a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator like you isn't even worth my attention at all. I called you an ant as a favor. To me, you're just a piece of crap." The green-clad young man teased Duan Lingtian fearlessly without holding back. Tisk tisk, a mastery mortal shedding stage cultivator attempting to defeat a perfection mortal shedding stage cultivator. What nonsense is that? All of you are embarrassing yourself no matter how many of you come up to challenge us. Do you think we perfection mortal shedding stage cultivators are just clay that you can play with? The difference in cultivation base is an obvious proof of the difference in our abilities. The bunch of perfection mortal shedding stage cultivators on the high platform stared at Duan Lingtian in disdain. They did not think that there was a difference between him and the other 23 young geniuses on the mastery mortal shedding stage who had challenged them earlier. To them, this purple-clad young man would definitely turn out to be like the 23 young geniuses, whereby he would be destined to fail the challenge and miss his opportunity with the Moon Illumination Sect. Naturally, 4 of them among the perfection mortal shedding stage cultivators thought otherwise. They were Ling Yun, Shang Hu, and the 2 young geniuses from Luozhong City. Below the high platform, apart from the city governors of Mount Hill City and Luozhong City as well as the mastery mortal shedding stage young genius from Luozhong City, the rest of them doubted Duan Lingtian. The city governor of Mount Hill City knew about Duan Lingtian very well. He was well versed with Duan Lingtian's ability. Meanwhile, the city governor of Luozhong City and the young genius next to him had witnessed Duan Lingtian's ability the day before. They knew about Duan Lingtian's powerful ability, which was incomparable with anyone on the perfection mortal shedding stage at all. A piece of crap, Upon hearing what the young man said, instead of getting mad, Duan Lingtian was grinning. I'm very curious, what kind of expression would you have when you're defeated by a piece of crap? What are you if you're worse than a piece of crap? Stop your foolish nonsense. What you said would never happen, mocked the young man with scorn on his face. A piece of crap like you, it'll take me 3 hits at the most to defeat you. Really? The smile on Duan Lingtian's face was getting wider and wider. He subsequently took a step forward and initiated the attack without waiting for the young man to fight him. Silver shirt. At that moment, a layer of faint silver ray flashed on Duan Lingtian's body as if his body was covered by a silver armor. Due to the true energy carried by his 52 saint veins, everything happened in an instant. As soon as the silver ray flashed all over his body, Duan Lingtian stomped and exploded towards the young man in green like a cannon. The boost in his strength that came from the silver shirt caused his true energy to be unleashed without him holding back. Even without having to perform any movement technique, Duan Lingtian's speed was terrifying. He arrived inches away from the green-clad man in the blink of an eye. Witnessing Duan Lingtian's speed, the young man was horrified. It was clear that he did not expect a Master Immortal shedding stage martial cultivator to display such speed. His speed was similar to Duan Lingtian's even if he gave all he had as well as performed a movement technique. Being swift doesn't mean that you have a powerful attack ability. I'll show you the difference between Master Immortal shedding stage and Perfection Mortal shedding stage now. How dare you compare your insignificant ability to mine? The young man growled in his deep voice and advanced towards Duan Lingtian. He shook his hand fan which was covered with a layer of true energy in a flash and subsequently tossed it towards Duan Lingtian. I'd love to see how you're going to take this attack from me. The air seemed to be rent like a piece of paper wherever the hand fan passed. A rapid fan ray was dashing towards Duan Lingtian. Body and arrow synchronization. Duan Lingtian took out his sun-shooting bow slowly and shot an arrow as he lifted his arm. As he performed the body and arrow synchronization, he disappeared from the young man's field of vision in the blink of an eye. That's impossible. The young man's pupils shrunk as shock and disbelief appeared on his face. The man on the Master Immortal shedding stage in purple seemed to vanish from his sight without a trace. He could not capture his trail at all. Nothing is impossible. Subsequently, he heard a voice coming from behind him. Although the voice was calm, he was so terrified that his soul seemed to escape his body. When did he get behind me? Just as he thought of that, he felt a gush of majestic energy pressing on his back like a giant hammer. He felt like he was being buried by a collapsed mountain. In the next second, he felt his body shudder while his organs experienced a violent tremor. Subsequently, he felt like he was shot across the sky without control over his body. Bang! The young man in green fell below the platform. He happened to fall not far away from the 23 Master Immortal shedding stage young geniuses who had been disqualified earlier. High-spirited earlier, his face was now filled with dirt and dust. The 23 Master Immortal shedding stage young geniuses who had been disqualified were initially embarrassed by the teasing earlier, but now they were taking pleasure in the green-clad man's misery. The most boastful man had been defeated. Tisk tisk, calling us Master Immortal shedding stage ants and a piece of crap. It seems like you're worse than an ant or a piece of crap. Weren't you boasting just now? And now you're disqualified. So, you lost because you underestimated us Master Immortal shedding stage cultivators. Your jaw must be on the floor now, am I right? The 23 Master Immortal shedding stage young geniuses mocked the green-clad man one after another. At that moment, most of them below and on the platform had their eyes fixed on Duan Lingtian. Even the outer court elder of the Moon Illumination sect, Dong Chong, and the other 2 outer court deacons were dumbstruck. It was clear that what happened shocked them as well. Duan Lingtian had defeated a Perfection Mortal shedding stage martial cultivator in the blink of an eye. Was that really the doing of a Master Immortal shedding stage martial cultivator? The other city governors from the 16 cities were discussing among themselves while looking at Fang Wei enviously, elevating Fang Wei to cloud 9. Marvelous. I think I've seen him before. He was standing next to the city governor of Mount Hill City, Fang Wei. Seems like he's a young genius from Mount Hill City. Among the young geniuses from Mount City Hill, the only powerful one I know is Su Qi. Could he be Su Qi? He isn't Su Qi. I heard that Elder Lu Huan's direct disciple, Zhou Qi, took Su Qi away half a year ago, so Su Qi should be their inner court disciple now. I can't believe that the city governor of Mount Hill City has gotten such a freak after losing Su Qi. Duan Lingtian. Fang Wei looked at the purple silhouette on the stone platform with fondness in his eyes. Many of the perfection mortal shedding stage young geniuses on the stone platform snapped back to their senses after a moment of being dumbstruck and shouted at Duan Lingtian. That must be staged. It's impossible. Even if a mastery mortal shedding stage martial cultivator is capable of defeating a perfection mortal shedding stage, it's impossible that he could have been defeated in such a ridiculous way. I understand now. The fella must have given way to him on purpose. I want the both of them disqualified. That's right. Disqualify the both of them. Naturally, some of the perfection mortal shedding stage young geniuses who had great abilities figured what was going on. His speed was insanely fast. That speed, is that what a master mortal shedding stage is capable of performing? Even I, having the ability of a peak-level mastery mortal shedding stage cultivator, don't have a speed as fast as his. If he's really on mastery mortal shedding stage, isn't that wild? Those who had spoken were perfection mortal shedding stage young geniuses who had an acute sense of judgment and ability. The young man in green managed to stand up strenuously after consuming a healing medicinal pill. He glared viciously at Duan Lingtian again. How dare you disqualify me, Deng Yu? You're dead. Dead to me. Although Deng Yu knew that his ability was far behind Duan Lingtian's from the fight earlier, that did not stop him from resenting him. Duan Lingtian had gotten him disqualified. Duan Lingtian had ruined his dreams of getting into the Moon Illumination sect. Uncle, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. I'm already 37 this year, I'll be more than 40 when the Moon Illumination sect's entrance assessment takes place again 5 years later. I won't be able to participate, said Deng Yu through true energy voice transmission as he looked at one of the middle-aged men next to Dong Chong. His tone was filled with reluctance. Uncle, there must be something that you can do. There must be something that you can do, am I right? Little Yu, I'm just an outer court deacon. I don't have the right to take people who are disqualified into the sect. The middle-aged man was one of the outer court deacons standing next to Dong Chong. His name was Deng Wei. Uncle, I don't accept this. I don't. Deng Yu's face was filled with grief. Little Yu, don't you worry, although I can't get you into the sect, avenging you is a piece of cake. Even if the fella from Mount Hill City gets into the Moon Illumination sect, I won't let him live for long. Destroying you would mean destroying our Deng clan's future. I definitely won't let him go. A cold gleam flashed through Deng Wei's eyes as he spoke fiercely through true energy voice transmission. Yes, kill him, kill him. Hearing what Deng Wei said, the grief on Deng Yu's face faded away slowly. Duan Lingtian glanced at Deng Yu coldly and did not bother to look at him any longer. Instead, he looked at the outer court elder of the Moon Illumination sect, Dong Chong. Elder Dong Chong, I'm considered to have passed the entrance assessment, am I right? Yes, yes. Dong Chong finally snapped back to his senses hearing what Duan Lingtian said. The entire scenario just now made him lost for a while. As a Moon Illumination outer court disciple went up to the stone platform to escort Duan Lingtian away, Dong Chong looked at him while smiling. Little fella, I'd like to take you as my direct disciple. Are you willing to do that? The ability Duan Lingtian displayed earlier made him want to keep the purple-clad man to himself. Gasp! Everyone gasped as soon as Dong Chong said that. Chapter 1428. Who was Dong Chong? He was the elder of the Moon Illumination sect. Although he was just an outer court elder, his position in the Moon Illumination sect was just a rank lower than the supreme elder, the sect leader, the vice sect leader, and some inner court elders. At that moment, the eyes that were focused on Duan Lingtian were filled with envy and jealousy. Damn it, Deng Yu had a drastic change of expression. Meanwhile, Deng Wei who stood next to Dong Chong looked aghast too. He had just promised his nephew that he would definitely kill Duan Lingtian, yet now his immediate superior, Elder Dong Chong, wanted to take the man in as his direct disciple. If Duan Lingtian really became Elder Dong Chong's direct disciple, he would not dare to do anything to him even if he had the guts to. Although he could do it secretly, it would be alright if everything went well, but it would be beyond redemption if the attempt failed. Elder Dong Chong, thank you so much for your kindness, but I don't plan to have a master at the time being, Duan Lingtian said while smiling in an apologetic manner. The people who were shocked by Dong Chong declaring his intention to take Duan Lingtian as his disciple took a while to snap back to their senses. They then froze hearing what Duan Lingtian said. This brat's so ungrateful. That's right, Elder Dong Chong's taking him as his disciple because he values him. I can't believe he rejected the offer. Many of them condemned him. All of them thought Duan Lingtian was being rude. The scoundrel, win. A gleam flashed through Deng Yu's eyes as Duan Lingtian's rejection of Dong Chong's request made him relieved. Deng Wei was assured too. As long as this purple-clad young man did not become Elder Dong Chong's direct disciple, Duan Lingtian would be merely a piece of meat on his chopping board to whom he could do whatever he wanted when the opportunity arose in the future. Perhaps he might not even have to do the dirty job by himself. These people from Mount Hill City, Elder Lu Huan would never let them off easily. Deng Wei grinned secretly. Dong Chong was stunned for a moment as he heard Duan Lingtian's direct rejection. He only snapped back to his senses after a while and smiled embarrassedly. I realize that I've misbehaved. I wonder what's your name, little friend? Little friend. The people were dumbstruck upon hearing Dong Chong call Duan Lingtian, little friend, instead of being mad at his rejection. What was happening? In such a situation, should Elder Dong Chong not revoke the purple-clad young man's eligibility to get into the Moon Illumination sect, especially after the agitation that he was feeling? I'm Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian did not expect Dong Chong to be reasonable either. He responded while grinning at that moment. At the same time, he began to have a good feeling about Dong Chong. Duan Lingtian. Dong Chong nodded and smiled lightly at Duan Lingtian. Subsequently, he looked at the Moon Illumination sect outer court disciple who had arrived next to Duan Lingtian. Bring Duan Lingtian to register at the outer court. Yes, sir, the outer sect disciple responded before leaving the stone platform with Duan Lingtian. They headed towards the sect's outer court. While following the outer court disciple, Duan Lingtian turned around to take a glance at the city governor of Mount Hill City and nodded at him. He then glanced at Ling Yun and Shanghu. I'll be waiting for the both of you at the outer court, Duan Lingtian said to them through true energy voice transmission. Both of them nodded. Duan Lingtian knew Ling Yun and Shanghu's abilities, so he was sure that they would definitely pass the Moon Illumination sect entrance assessment and become the sect's outer court disciple. What Duan Lingtian did not know was that there were two dark horses among the over 30 Master Immortal shedding stage young geniuses after he left the sect's entrance assessment venue. The two dark horses defeated two perfection mortal shedding stage young geniuses. The two dark horses passed the sect's entrance assessment successfully and became outer court disciples. Junior brother Duan, I'm surprised that you have such a powerful ability when your cultivation base is only on the Master Immortal shedding stage, it's shocking. The Moon Illumination sect outer court disciple could not help but exclaim when he was leading Duan Lingtian towards the outer court area. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly without responding. He had no idea how he should respond at that moment. The Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciple who walked ahead of Duan Lingtian proceeded to speak. What was even out of everyone's expectations was that Elder Dong Chong asked you to be his direct disciple publicly. Junior brother Duan, it was wise of you to reject Elder Dong Chong. With your talent and ability, as long as you stand out in the sect, it's possible for the inner court elder to take you as his direct disciple. Elder Dong Chong's position is higher than the inner court deacons since he's the outer court elder. However, he's lower than inner court elder when you compare their ranks. Do you think I rejected Elder Dong Chong so that I could be the disciple of the inner court elder? Duan Lingtian was dumbfounded. He did not expect people to perceive his rejection towards Elder Dong Chong as looking down on the man. Isn't it? The outer court disciple asked him back. Of course not. Duan Lingtian shook his head vehemently. I've never thought of becoming inner court elder's disciple. Junior brother Duan, you've such lofty goals. I hope you'll make it, sighed the outer court disciple. Lofty goals? Duan Lingtian was stunned. You know what my goals are. Of course. The outer court disciple nodded. Since your goal isn't to make the inner court elder your master, you must be going for the disciple position of the vice sect leader, the sect leader or even the supreme elder. But junior brother Duan, I must remind you that it's impossible for the three of them to take you as their disciple unless you have a freaky talent. The same applies even though you can defeat people whose level is higher than yours. They'll look at talents that last, not abilities that are temporary, said the outer court disciple to Duan Lingtian patiently, seeming to have kind intentions. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian was dumbstruck. Was he, Duan Lingtian, someone who fawned over powerful people to this outer court disciple? He did not bother to explain himself at that second because he knew that he would only complicate the situation further if he did. Duan Lingtian arrived at the Moon Illumination sect outer court area with the guidance of the outer court disciple. He also got his personal token from the outer court disciple. There was no uniform when it came to attire. He had found out about that much earlier. No matter whether it was the Moon Illumination sect outer court elder Dong Chong, the 2 outer court deacons, or the outer court disciple, all of them dressed casually. However, each of them had a significant token tied around their waist on their casual attire. It was the Moon Illumination sect's identity token. Apart from the words, outer court disciple, carved on top of the personal token, there were 3 words that had just been carved on the personal token that Duan Lingtian received. It was his name. Junior brother Duan, I'll bring you where we outer court disciples live. The outer court disciple brought Duan Lingtian to the place the outer court disciples lived after calling out to him. Senior brother Yang, I've heard from my teacher before that the Moon Illumination sect's accommodation is divided into 3 classes, the 3rd, the 6th and the 9th. The more powerful a person's ability is, the better their accommodation is, whereas the weaker the person is, the poorer their accommodation is. Duan Lingtian asked along the way, is that true? Duan Lingtian familiarized himself with the outer court disciple along the way. He learned that his name was Yang He. Yang He had entered the Moon Illumination sect 5 years ago. He was 43 this year and his cultivation base was on the paramount mortal shedding stage. That's right, Yang He nodded. The accommodation we outer court disciples are living in are divided into 3 classes. The best one has an individual compound. Not only is there a quiet room for cultivation, but there's also a vast courtyard to cultivate your saint-grade martial tactic too. The second one would be an individual stone house. Its environment's much worse compared to the individual compound as there's no space to cultivate the saint-grade martial tactic. Outer court disciples who stay there can only cultivate the saint-grade martial tactic at the training field. The poorest one would be the individual cottages. Those that have just been refurbished are fine, but some of them haven't been maintained for a long time and leak whenever it rains. Yang He told Duan Lingtian about the 3rd, 6th, and 9th class accommodation areas in one breath. An individual compound. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up and he mumbled softly to himself. He had a goal in mind. He would not have to worry about the space to cultivate his saint-grade martial tactic if he were to stay in the stone house that was poorer than the individual compounds, because the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda would serve that purpose. However, it was only natural that he wanted the best if it was available. Junior brother, don't tell me you're eyeing the individual compound. Yang He's ears were sharp as he heard Duan Lingtian's soft mumble and could not help but ask with his eyes opened wide. Is there a problem with that? Duan Lingtian asked, noticing Yang He's surprise. Of course, there is. Yang He forced a smile. Junior brother Duan, you must know this, although I've broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage half a year ago, until now, I'm still no match for the weakest person staying in the individual compound. The accommodation where the Moon Illumination sect outer court disciples lived were assigned based on their personal ability. One could replace another as long as their ability was more powerful. The rule was exactly the same back at the Latent Dragon camp in the city governor's estate of Mount Hill City. Those with a powerful ability would have better accommodation while the weaker ones would live in a dreary environment. Are the individual compounds limited? Duan Lingtian asked. He could not believe that Yang He, who had gotten into the Moon Illumination sect 5 years ago and was on a cultivation base of paramount mortal shedding stage, had yet to move into the individual compound. It's not exactly limited. There are a total of 100 of them, Yang He explained. 100? That many? Duan Lingtian exclaimed in surprise. You mean you can't get any although there are so many individual compounds? 100 isn't that many, Yang He replied, forcing a smile. The sect recruits outer court disciples every 5 years and they recruit more than 100 of them each time. It'd be considered great if half of those outer court disciples pass the inner court assessment and become inner court disciples. Among those outer court disciples, many of them are stuck on the paramount mortal shedding stage for 10 years, 15 years or even 20 for a variety of reasons. Since they're unable to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage and can't pass the inner court assessment, they've remained in the outer court until now. Some of the older outer court senior brothers and senior sisters are close to 100 years old, Yang He sighed. Close to 100 years old? Duan Lingtian was astounded by what Yang He revealed. Yes, Yang He affirmed, there's a rule in the sect. If one hasn't entered the inner court before they turn 100, they'll be expelled from the sect. Naturally, many outer sect disciples realize they have no hope of getting into the inner court, so they leave the sect on their own. Even so, there are still many elderly outer court disciples who decide to stay. Chapter 1429. The journey of martial Dao was like a boat sailing against the currents. You either kept forging ahead or you would fall behind. Breaking through to the Saint Rudiment stage was just a matter of time for many martial cultivators and Dao cultivators who had great talent and comprehension ability. Meanwhile, for cultivators who had mediocre talent and low comprehension ability, they might never break through to the Saint Rudiment stage for the rest of their lives. In the Outer Court Disciples' accommodation area, there has always been 100 compounds and 300 stone houses. However, the amount of cottages isn't fixed. Yang He gave Duan Lingtian a rough idea about the living situation of the Moon Illumination Sect Outer Court Disciples. According to Yang He, the Moon Illumination Sect Outer Court Disciples who were living in the compounds were the best of the best among the people on the paramount mortal shedding stage. Meanwhile, almost half of those who were living in the 300 stone houses were Outer Court Disciples on the perfection mortal shedding stage. Apart from that, there were some Outer Court Disciples at the peak level of the perfection mortal shedding stage who had celebrated abilities among them. Following Yang He, Duan Lingtian soon arrived near where the Outer Court Disciples lived. They were looking out at a vast training field. The accommodation which had a distinct difference was behind the training field. The cottages were the closest to the training field and the gaps between them were minimal. There were both new and old cottages among them, the latter seeming like they would collapse anytime. The Outer Court Disciples who are staying in the cottages are those who have poorer abilities, but the weakest among them is on the perfection mortal shedding stage. Yang He said, in the cottage area, it makes sense that those closest to the training field are noisier. The stone house area is behind the cottage area. Although it's better, they can still hear the commotion from the training field. The compound area behind the stone house area is the quietest where the residents almost can't hear anything that's happening at the training field. Yang He explained everything in one breath. Duan Lingtian looked ahead when he heard that and saw rows of stone houses behind the rows of cottages. Meanwhile, there were compounds far away behind the stone houses, and there were exquisite little houses in each of them. Plants grew all over the compounds which were refreshing. Those compounds. At that very second, Duan Lingtian's desire for the compound was even stronger. He was determined to stay in one of those compounds. There were many Outer Court Disciples cultivating Saint-grade martial tactics on the vast training field. However, they were only touching base when they sparred with each other. The rules in the Moon Illumination sect were strict since it was a 7th-rate force. Killing and crippling were prohibited in the sect. Naturally, crippling referred to injuries that could not be recovered with the consumption of healing medicinal pills. Although Duan Lingtian was lucky that he had obtained an immortal spirit herb before which could regenerate a severed arm and leg, it was a legendary medicinal herb after all. It was scarce even in Dao Martial Saint Land. Even a 9-star healing saint grade pill which was the highest grade that existed could not regenerate a severed limb. Ha 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 ha, this must be our junior brother who's just passed the entry assessment, am I right? Yang He, why don't you introduce him? A voice rang out, snapping Duan Lingtian back from his thoughts. Duan Lingtian turned to the source of the voice and saw 3 people coming towards him in an instant. A middle-aged man was the leader among the 3. 2 middle-aged men followed behind him and were clearly his underlings. It was the leading middle-aged man who had been laughing maniacally earlier. Damn it, we've been targeted. Yang He had a slight change of expression but he regained his composure very soon. He glanced between the middle-aged man who arrived before him and Duan Lingtian prior to greeting him rather respectfully, Senior Brother Sengji. Duan Lingtian, this is Senior Brother Sengji. Senior Brother Sengji ranks number 85 among our Outer Court Disciples, Yang He introduced to Duan Lingtian after greeting the middle-aged man. After the introduction, he secretly said to Duan Lingtian through true energy voice transmission, Duan Lingtian, Sengji's an Outer Court Disciple who is staying in the compound. His cultivation base is close to the peak level of the paramount mortal shedding stage. He became the sect's Outer Court Disciple 20 years ago, so he's considered an old-timer in the sect's Outer Court. He's always blackmailing Outer Court Disciples below the perfection mortal shedding stage for Saint Stones. He'll definitely ask for Saint Stones from you later. Pretend to be poor and just give him some to get rid of him. He'll come for you again in the future if you give him too much. There was fear in Yang He's voice. He was apparently afraid of Sengji. Duan Lingtian took a glance at Sengji and greeted him coldly, Senior Brother Sengji. Sengji took a hard look at Duan Lingtian for a while and said maliciously, is your name Duan Lingtian? What an obnoxious name. Judging by your name, I'm sure you come from a rich family. You should have many saint stones with you. You're new to the sect, so you must know what to do to respect senior brothers like us. Understand? Duan Lingtian was shocked to learn that someone could actually sugarcoat blackmail in such a way. Understand what? Duan Lingtian asked coldly as if he really did not understand. Duan Lingtian, Yang He did not expect him to not only ignore what he said but to also play dumb now. He could not help but stare incredulously at the moment while there was a concern in his eyes. Duan Lingtian might have impressive talent, but he was only on the master immortal shedding stage after all. Even though he had defeated an ordinary perfection mortal shedding stage, it was impossible for him to fight an outer court disciple who was close to the peak level of the paramount mortal shedding stage like Sengji. To him, Duan Lingtian would lose big time. Playing dumb, as expected, Sengji's face turned completely solemn hearing Duan Lingtian. He said in his deep voice, "Brat, I've met many rude hotheads like you throughout the 20 years that I'm here. Do you know what happened to them? Let me tell you. Those who got at least severe were bedridden for exactly a month." There was a dangerous glare shooting out of Sengji's eyes as he spoke while a terrifying aura rose from his body. It swept out and pressed on Duan Lingtian like a tornado. However, Duan Lingtian remained still. "Why are you telling me all these? Are you trying to tell me that you haven't become an inner court disciple despite being in the sect for 20 years? Duan Lingtian asked while grinning with his eyes narrowed. Bang! Duan Lingtian's retort was like a striking lightning bolt, shocking Yang He and the two outer court disciples behind Sengji. Even Sengji was dumbstruck now. He had yet to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage and become an inner court disciple after being in the sect for 20 years. Undoubtedly, it was the biggest pain in Sengji's heart and was the biggest scar that he bore. Never had he thought that someone would dare to reveal his scar that very day. Apart from that, the person who revealed his scar was a hothead who had just gotten into the sect. "Brat, Sengji, swear that I'm not human if I don't make you bedridden for 3 months. Sengji responded with a solemn face before Yang He and the two outer court disciples managed to react. He was almost screaming as he spoke. His rumbling voice echoed above the training field like an explosion, causing the bunch of outer court disciples on the training field to stop what they were doing and look over. "It's senior brother Sengji. Tisk tisk." Hearing senior brother Sengji's tone, someone must have triggered him. In the outer court, nobody dares to trigger senior brother Seng apart from the senior brothers and senior sisters who he shouldn't offend. This fella who has triggered him must have just entered the sect today. Haha, seems like this hothead's in bad luck. Let's go, let's see what's happening. The Moon Illumination sect outer disciples surrounded Duan Lingtian one after another. "Did I say anything wrong?" Duan Lingtian said while smirking facing the enraged Sengji. He did not seem to notice that Sengji was losing his mind. "The both of you, watch Yang He. If Yang He dares to help, I'll make him bedridden for 10 days to half a month. I'll teach this brat a lesson." Sengji instructed the two outer court disciples behind him. He then glared at Duan Lingtian ferociously, the raging fire in his body seeming like it would explode anytime. "Senior brother Sang, Duan Lingtian didn't mean to offend you. Please forgive him." Yang He had a drastic change of expression. It was he who had brought Duan Lingtian in. If something happened to Duan Lingtian, although he would not be punished, he would not be able to forgive himself. "Yang He, are you still thinking of others when you can hardly protect yourself now? That's right. Don't blame me for the things that I'm going to do to you if you dare to move." The two outer court disciples behind Sengji stepped forward and blocked Yang He's left and right as they warned while grinning. Yang He's face turned gravely solemn. "Duan Lingtian, things would have been great if you hadn't rejected Elder Dong Chong earlier and become his direct disciple. At least, Sengji won't dare to do anything to you under my watch if you became Elder Dong Chong's direct disciple." Yang He's heart was filled with bitterness. There was nothing that he could do to help Duan Lingtian's current situation. The only thing he could do was hope that Sengji would show mercy. However, he knew that was impossible. What Duan Lingtian said earlier was a taboo to Sengji, infuriating him completely. It was his first time seeing Sengji this furious ever since he got into the Moon Illumination sect 5 years ago. At that moment, the bunch of outer court disciples on the training field inched closer. They were watching Duan Lingtian and Sengji who were looking at each other as if they were waiting for a good show to start. Tisk tisk, this kid's so daring, he offended senior brother Sengji right after he got into the sect. Out of close to 1,000 outer court disciples, senior brother Sengji ranks number 85. This kid who just got in is asking for death when he offended senior brother Sengji. He'll know that his blood is red in color very soon. Eyes filled with mockery landed on Duan Lingtian one after another. It was clear that the bunch of outer court disciples who were watching did not think that he could escape Sengji. It seems like you've earned yourself some prestige staying in the outer court for 20 years. At least, all of them think you're going to crush me, Duan Lingtian smiled calmly and said while looking at Sengji. You're asking for death, Sengji growled furiously, realizing that his foe had the guts to bring that up again. He dashed at Duan Lingtian as if his body turned into a bolt of lightning. Chapter 1430. Duan Lingtian stood, unmoving, at his spot as he faced Sengji who was charging at him at lightning speed. Is he shocked? The group of outer court disciples who were watching thought Duan Lingtian was shocked from being scared and forgot to dodge when they saw he remained motionless even though Sengji was fast approaching him. People close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage are really strong. At the very least, he's more powerful than Xiao Shui from Luozhong City and Su Qi whom I met half a year ago. Nobody would have thought Duan Lingtian was thinking about other matters when faced with Sengji's lightning-fast attack. Sengji punched out as soon as he arrived before Duan Lingtian, aiming at his stomach. It was like a rocket, the wind howled in its wake. There was a rule in the Moon Illumination sect that prohibited killing and crippling one another. Due to this reason, Sengji did not aim his punch at any of Duan Lingtian's vulnerable body parts. His objective was to make Duan Lingtian bedridden for 3 months. It was undoubtedly a skill, being able to cause someone to be bedridden for 3 months without crippling them. Sengji's punch that was laced with true energy was like a collapsing mountain. His eyes turned red as he punched toward Duan Lingtian's stomach. In his opinion, his punch was sufficient enough to get rid of the hothead who had just entered his sect. This is just the beginning, Sengji thought to himself resentfully. His fury peaked at this moment, and he vented it out on Duan Lingtian. Just in time, Duan Lingtian did not dodge the incoming attack from Sengji simply because he did not want to dodge at all. Although Sengji was powerful, Duan Lingtian might be able to fight him if he unleashed his full strength when they fight. However, it would still be difficult for him to defeat Sengji even if he unleashed his full strength. If he did not use the strange pupil, at most he would be evenly matched with Sengji. However, he had another idea. He planned to activate strange pupil without any reservation. He wanted to use its unpredictable spatial manipulation ability to defeat Sengji to scare the other outer court disciples. When Sengji punched out, Duan Lingtian flooded his left eye with the spiritual energy he had prepared to activate the strange pupil. All of a sudden, a tiny black whirlpool appeared in Duan Lingtian's left eye. The black whirlpool spun rapidly like a bottomless pit. If anyone were to look at the strange phenomenon in Duan Lingtian's left eye, they would definitely lose themselves in the black whirlpool. It was not just their attention, even their consciousness might be taken away. Sengji's punch became extremely slow in Duan Lingtian's left eye when he activated the strange pupil with his full force. It seemed as though his punch had frozen. With just a thought, Sengji's punch disappeared from its spot and shifted next to Duan Lingtian's body. At this moment, Duan Lingtian deactivated the strange pupil. Bang, 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 Sengji's fist appeared next to Duan Lingtian's robe as a deafening explosion reverberated in the air. His fist did not touch Duan Lingtian at all. How's that possible? Sengji's expression changed drastically when he witnessed the strange incident. There were hints of shock and disbelief in his eyes. When he was still in shock over what happened, Duan Lingtian attacked like a bolt of lightning. He mimicked Sengji and aimed a punch at his stomach. The punch landed on his stomach as the wind howled. An eye for an eye. As Sengji's body fell forward from his missed punch, it looked like he was falling on Duan Lingtian's punch. Bang! Sengji groaned in his deep voice as a loud thud sounded in the air. His body shuddered and he was subsequently thrown back. It seemed as though he had no control of his body at all. Duan Lingtian did not stop just yet. When Sengji was sent flying, he chased after him with his rapid speed. When Sengji fell to the ground after he was sent flying more than tens of meters away, Duan Lingtian kicked the middle of his back, and he was sent flying into the air again. Sengji, who was trying to hold back from throwing up blood from the first punch earlier, could not endure anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. That was not all. His organs trembled, and he spat out a few more mouthfuls of blood. All this happened while he was sent flying into the air like a rocket. Bang! Another loud noise reverberated in the air. Duan Lingtian stomped both his feet, causing a crack that was similar to a spider web to appear on the ground. Subsequently, he shot up into the air and chased after Sengji. Sengji's expression changed dramatically when he heard the sound of wind whistling coming from below. At this moment, he discovered he was in a precarious situation. Without further hesitation, he consumed a healing medicinal pill immediately. He moved both of his legs and arms in the air and managed to turn around after he recovered a little. I'm going to kill you. Sengji did not have the time to figure out why his punch shifted earlier. At this very moment, his attention was fully focused on Duan Lingtian, who was rushing at him after he had used his stomp as leverage to shoot up into the sky. Whoosh, 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 his legs spun like a windmill as he shot down from the impact. At this moment, a 7-foot spear appeared in Sengji's hand. A ferocious ray flashed at the tip of the spear. When he shook it, it seemed as though it was capable of tearing the sky apart. It swept toward Duan Lingtian in an attempt to crush him. The spear in Sengji's hand was, naturally, not an ordinary weapon. It was a human rank prominent saint weapon. Although Sengji suffered serious injury and the energy he used was not at its peak, the spear still seemed powerful and unstoppable. Bang! Sengji could almost see the scene of the purple-clad young man being defeated. However, he was shocked to discover the strange incident from earlier had happened again. The spear that was supposed to land on Duan Lingtian's body strangely appeared next to him again. The powerful attack missed Duan Lingtian once again and appeared behind his robe. He became vulnerable before Duan Lingtian again. The first time it happened might have been an accident. However, could it still be considered as an accident if it happened twice? Who are you exactly? Sengji was terrified as he looked at the purple-clad young man who was approaching him. Fear rose from the depth of his heart. He could not figure out how the same strange thing could happen twice, and he could not help but feel terrified. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was no different from a ghost to him. Bang! Duan Lingtian punched out again, causing him to shoot up into the sky. Although there was flight-prohibiting formation above the Moon Illumination Sect's estate, Duan Lingtian managed to shoot himself up into the sky and catch up to Sengji by using his strength as leverage. I surrender. What are you trying to do? Sengji spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and he had lost all will to fight from his injuries. His face changed drastically when he saw Duan Lingtian was still coming at him. He no longer dared to attack Duan Lingtian at this moment. Who was he kidding? His attacks could not land on Duan Lingtian at all. Although my spiritual energy is much more powerful since I've broken through to the Master Immortal shedding stage, it's still difficult to activate Strange Pupil. I can activate it twice consecutively at the most. Duan Lingtian felt dizzy as he chased after Sengji. It was a sign that his spiritual energy was almost depleted. He was certain if Sengji were to attack at this moment, he would not be able to endure it. Apart from feeling dizzy, he felt as though his limbs had lost all strength. At this moment, he had lost his ability to attack Sengji again. The only thing he could do was to step on Sengji's body as he fell from the sky. Sengji was relieved when he saw Duan Lingtian no longer had any intention of attacking him. However, his expression changed completely when he realized Duan Lingtian had no intention of lessening the impact of their fall. As the sound of wind whistling blew past his ears, they were fast approaching the ground. Bang, bang, although he was severely injured, he did not hesitate and punched the ground. 2 rumbling airwaves were smashed onto the ground, and the impact decelerated his falling speed. At this very second, Sengji was totally exhausted. He let his body slam on the ground as dirt flew everywhere. He was relieved despite the pain he felt all over his body. He was thankful for the 2 punches he threw earlier. Otherwise, he would be the first outer court disciple to die from falling in the history of the Moon Illumination sect. At the same time, Duan Lingtian landed next to Sengji. He looked at him condescendingly. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Sengji was truly scared. After mustering up the last of his strength, he said, I surrender. Gasp. At this moment, the group of outer court disciples finally regained their senses. They were shocked since they had seen everything that had happened earlier. Sengji had been in the sect for 20 years, and his cultivation base was close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. However, he had surrendered to an outer court disciple who had just recently entered the sect. They would not have believed it if they did not witness this with their own eyes. Are my eyes deceiving me? Am I dreaming? Isn't this a little ridiculous? Many outer court disciples rubbed their eyes while some pinched their thighs. They realized they were not dreaming when they felt the pain. Yang He was dumbstruck. Although he knew Duan Lingtian was powerful, he did not know he was this powerful. A person with a cultivation base at the Master Immortal shedding stage defeated Sengji. Although he found it hard to believe, the truth had already been laid out before his eyes. Sengji had surrendered to Duan Lingtian. It was a cold, hard truth he had to accept even if he found it hard to believe. I want your independent courtyard, do you have any objection? Duan Lingtian asked in his deep voice. He stood above Sengji as he looked at him. He was holding himself up from sheer will and determination. He would have fallen like Sengji if it was not because of his determination since he had exhausted his spiritual energy. No objection. Sengji tried his best to shake his head, but he realized he could not move at all. He could only reply with a bitter expression on his face. Senior brother Yanghe, please bring me to the independent courtyard that he used to reside in. Duan Lingtian glanced at the other two outer court disciples who were initially standing behind Sengji. They were so scared that their expressions changed drastically as they staggered a few steps back. Duan Lingtian then looked at Yanghe. Sure, Yanghe finally regained his senses when Duan Lingtian called out to him. He then brought Duan Lingtian to the independent courtyard. Chapter 1431. Duan Lingtian discovered that Yanghe's attitude toward him had changed completely after he had defeated Sengji. He had become more humble. Although it was not to the point where he was groveling, he was not as casual as before. In that regard, Duan Lingtian merely shook his head. He was not surprised. In the Dao martial saint land, the strong ones were revered. He had shown sufficient strength to crush Sengji. It was enough to unsettle the outer court of Moon Illumination sect and make the outer court disciples wary of him. That was, originally, his objective. Otherwise, he would not have risked exhausting his spiritual energy to activate the strange pupil twice. He did that as a show of power. Put aside the fact that he was new and looked down upon by the others, he had to do that considering the animosity between his teacher, Feng Wei the city governor of Mount Hill City, and the inner court elder, Lu Huan. If he did not establish his strength earlier, would there not be outer disciples who would provoke him in order to curry favor with Lu Huan? Although this would not settle the matter completely, it was still much better than leaving it as it is. At least, there would not be more than 100 outer court disciples who would dare to find fault with him in the outer court after today. This was his objective after all. Duan, senior brother, I'll take my leave first. After sending Duan Lingtian to the independent courtyard where Sengji used to reside, Yanghe addressed Duan Lingtian accordingly. He no longer addressed him as junior brother. Although Duan Lingtian was younger than him, people rarely judge someone based on age or experience in the Dao martial saint land. People mostly judged someone based on strength. Duan Lingtian was stronger than him. It was only natural that he addressed him as senior brother. Thanks. After thanking him, Duan Lingtian did not say anything else to Yanghe as he turned around and walked into the independent courtyard. He knew very well in his heart that it was no longer possible for Yanghe to be as casual as he was after that battle, so he did not think it was necessary to waste any more words. They had met by chance. If Yanghe did not alienate him because of the strength he had shown, he would not have treated Yanghe condescendingly just because he was stronger. Duan Lingtian was not someone who would oppress others just because he was stronger than them. If he was that kind of person, he would not have addressed Yanghe as senior brother in the beginning since he already knew he was stronger than him. Yanghe was merely an outer court disciple who had just broken through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. Even without utilizing the strange pupil, he was certain he could defeat Yanghe. After walking into the independent courtyard, Duan Lingtian saw a stone table, stone chair, and an exquisite house. He saw the simple decorations inside when he pushed the door open to enter the house. Apart from a bed, there were only a few adornments. The room seemed less monotonous because of the adornments. After closing the door and confirming the windows were tightly shut, Duan Lingtian retrieved the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda and turned it into a speck of dust. Soon after, Duan Lingtian disappeared from the room with just a thought. Naturally, he did not really disappear. He had entered the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Elder Huo. The first thing Duan Lingtian did after entering the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was not to cultivate on the 2nd level but to find Elder Huo. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's eyes were filled with excitement as he gazed at Elder Huo. I've refined the little devil dragon's blood and produced 5 drops of blood essence. The drops of blood essence are in here, Elder Huo said as he threw a small bottle over to him as though he was disposing trash. Duan Lingtian was afraid the small bottle might fall and break as he watched it fly toward him, and he hurriedly caught it. You'll only need 1 drop. You can give the other 4 drops to others, Elder Huo said. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and nodded slowly. He would use 1 drop. 2 of the 4 remaining drops would be given to his 2 fiancés, the last 2 drops would be given to either Little Black, Little White or Little Gold. He did not count his 2 unborn children. It was not that he had forgotten about them, but he felt it would be better if the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence was used on the saber's blade. Whether it was his 2 fiancés or the 3 little fellows, they were close to entering the Saint Rudiment stage. Moreover, the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence was only beneficial for condensing the variant beast phenomenon. Only God knew when his 2 unborn children would break through to the Saint Rudiment stage. Moreover, he believed that by the time his children broke through to the Saint Rudiment stage, he would certainly be capable of acquiring blood essence from the other 5-clawed divine dragons. I suggest you give the 2 drops of the little devil dragon's blood essence to the white-clad little girl and the black-clad little boy, Elder Huo said. Little White, Little Black. Duan Lingtian naturally knew who the white-clad little girl and the black-clad little boy Elder Huo had mentioned. They were originally worm python. If they use the little devil dragon's blood essence, it'll transform their bloodline, Elder Huo added. Duan Lingtian was naturally convinced by Elder Huo's words. It seems like Little Gold has no fate with this 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. Duan Lingtian even wondered if he should avoid Little Gold when he gives the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence to Little White and Little Black. After informing Elder Huo, Duan Lingtian went up to the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. He retrieved 1 drop of the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence from the small bottle after he sat down cross-legged. No wonder it's the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. The aura is so dense. Duan Lingtian was shocked when he looked at the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence in his hands. After it had left the bottle, he could clearly feel the 1 drop of 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence emitting a majestic blood chi. If I'm an ordinary person, this blood chi would have killed me. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. As for the method to fuse the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence, it was not too difficult. He would separate it with his true energy and let it around his body and circulate it along his saint veins. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, 9 Dragons Form. In Duan Lingtian's body, the 9 dragons were transporting the true energy and devil dragon's blood essence and circulating one great chi circulatory cycle after another. It was not very different from his usual cultivation. After circulating about 30 great chi cycle, Duan Lingtian could feel the blood essence had already passed through all 52 saint veins in his body and fused with his body. He clearly felt that his entire body had undergone changes due to the fused blood essence. Whether it was his flesh, blood, bones, veins or skin, they seemed to have undergone a tremendous change and become more powerful than before. Is this an illusion? Duan Lingtian gasped inwardly. As far as he knew, when ordinary martial or Dao cultivators at the Perfection Saint Rudiment stage fused with a Saint Beast's blood essence, their body would not change. They could only form a corresponding variant beast phenomenon once they reached the Perfection Saint Rudiment stage. Other than that, there were no other uses for a Saint Beast's blood essence. However, when he fused with the blood essence of the 5-clawed devil dragon, he discovered that his body seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering change again. He had a similar experience once when the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda used its remaining power to transform his body previously. Naturally, the changes this time were not as dramatic as the previous time. I really don't know if it's just my imagination or did my body really get stronger. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian began to experiment. Boom, 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 boom. Duan Lingtian did not utilize any true energy as he began to punch, kick, and rapidly move in the air with just his brute strength. The sound of air explosion sounded in the wake of his punches and kicks. I really became stronger. After experimenting for a while, Duan Lingtian stopped and looked down at his opened hands. His expression was a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Duan Lingtian could clearly feel the changes in his body after his experiment. Although the transformation this time was not as drastic as the previous time, the improvement was still quite extreme. With my transformed body, I'm confident I can defeat Zhongji without utilizing the strange pupil if I meet him again. Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence. Previously, if he did not utilize the unpredictable ability of the strange pupil, he would be evenly matched with Zhongji at the most. He knew his ability very well. Now, even without the unpredictable abilities of the strange pupil, I can fight with a martial or Dao cultivator at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. In fact, ordinary martial or Tao cultivators at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage might not even be a match for me. After his body had fused with the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence and undergone another transformation, Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence. He felt indomitable and invincible. There are more benefits from the 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. Wait until I break through to the perfection saint rudiment stage, I'll be able to condense the divine dragon phenomenon with this drop of 5-clawed devil dragon's blood essence that I've fused into my body today. Moreover, it is a 5-clawed divine dragon phenomenon. Duan Lingtian became even more excited when he thought about this. At this moment, it was as though he could already see himself fighting alongside a 5-clawed divine dragon phenomenon after he had broken through to the saint rudiment stage. His strength was already invincible among those with the same cultivation base. In addition to the 5-clawed divine dragon phenomenon, there was no doubt he was like a tiger that had been given wings. I'm confident that the day I break through to the perfection saint rudiment stage will be the day I become invincible in regards to those below the saint stage. Duan Lingtian finally managed to suppress the excitement in his heart after half a day. It's important that I break through to the perfection mortal shedding stage as soon as I can, once I make another breakthrough, not to mention all those below the saint rudiment stage, even those at the early saint rudiment stage might not be my match. When he thought of that, Duan Lingtian immediately sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate diligently with a saint stone in his hands. In the early and intermediate saint rudiment stage, there were no special moves apart from the transformation in the qi and changes in one's true energy. The special moves could only be mastered and used once one had broken through to the mastery saint rudiment stage. One would be able to use the true energy consolidated weapon at the mastery saint rudiment stage. Chapter 1432. True energy consolidated weapon would condense true energy into a relic that could aid one in defeating one's opponent without affecting one's attack. This was a powerful move that those that are above the mastery saint rudiment stage possessed. It was also the reason the gap between the mastery saint rudiment stage and the intermediate saint rudiment stage was so wide. If those at the mastery saint rudiment stage did not use the true energy consolidated weapon, those at the intermediate saint rudiment stage might be able to endure for a while even if they could not defeat those at mastery saint rudiment stage. Once they used the true energy consolidated weapon, they would be able to defeat someone at the intermediate saint rudiment stage in just a blink of an eye. It was similar to when Zhou Qi, the direct disciple of the Moon Illumination sect's inner court elder, Lu Huan, battled the city governor of Mound Hill City, Feng Wei, at the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City. Initially, Feng Wei could endure Zhou Qi's numerous attacks. However, Feng Wei was instantly defeated when Zhou Qi condensed his true energy into a relic, a huge hammer, that fell on Fan Wei. The gap between the mastery saint rudiment stage and the intermediate saint rudiment stage was obvious. Although the two cultivation bases were only separated by one level, the gap was insurmountable once the former fully utilized their strength. Duan Lingtian was cultivating on the second level of the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda and had secluded himself from the outside world. Therefore, he did not know a huge commotion had broken out outside because he had defeated Seng Ji. An outer court disciple who had just entered the sect had defeated Seng Ji, whose strength was ranked number 85 in the outer court on his first day before he even found a place to stay. In the Moon Illumination sect, it seems that we've never had anyone who managed to defeat someone ranked in the top 100 in the outer court when they've just entered the sect. Our Moon Illumination sect has always only recruited young prodigies below the age of 40. These young prodigies may be very talented, but it's still outrageous for them to defeat someone ranked in the top 100 in the outer court when they've just entered the sect. Those who rank in the top 100 in the outer court, which one of them isn't near the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage? These people can thoroughly crush ordinary martial cultivators at the paramount mortal shedding stage. It seems that Duan Lingtian will go down in history as someone who managed to defeat someone who ranks in the top 100 in the outer despite the fact that he had just entered the sect. If I didn't personally witness it, I would have a hard time believing such a freak exists. A freak like this will be considered as a rare martial Dao prodigy even in the entire Dao martial saint land, right? In the outer court, a group of senior outer court disciples was discussing among themselves. They had a shocked expression on their faces as they discussed how Duan Lingtian thoroughly defeated Seng Ji. Although many outer court disciples saw the scene when Zheng Ji launched his first attack and how his fist had strangely missed Duan Lingtian, most of them thought they had seen wrongly. As for the second time when Seng Ji attacked with the saint weapon spear, they did not see it when it shifted because they were too far apart. If they had seen it, it would have been the focus of their conversation now. Yanghe, you're the one that brought Duan Lingtian in, do you know his background? Soon after, many people went to Yanghe. They were all curious about Duan Lingtian's background. They were curious about what kind of magnificent place was capable of raising such a freak. I don't know. Yanghe shook his head. He had gone up to the back of the stone platform to receive Duan Lingtian, so he did not hear the whispers among the group of people in front of the stone platform. He was not aware that Duan Lingtian came from Mount Hill City. I didn't expect the recently recruited outer court disciples to have such a high quality. That Duan Lingtian seems to be the 13th one to be at the paramount mortal shedding stage, one of the outer court disciples exclaimed. A decade ago, when I passed the entrance exam to join the sect, there were only 9 people at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Another outer court disciple could not help but sigh. That's still much better than the time I joined. At that time, there were only 5 people at the paramount mortal shedding stage, another outer court disciple said. The few outer court disciples surrounding Yanghe discussed among themselves. They were shaking their heads repeatedly that it seemed as though their heads were about to fall off. He's not at the paramount mortal shedding stage, Yanghe said with a frown. Yanghe's words were like a drop of rain in a drought. It instantly attracted the attention of the surrounding outer court disciples. All of them fell silent immediately. Yanghe, who's not at the paramount mortal shedding stage? You don't mean Duan Lingtian, do you? What a joke. Duan Lingtian defeated Sengji. Even the 12 people at the paramount mortal shedding stage who had joined before him had to obediently hand over their saint stones to Sengji when he extorted it from them. You're telling me that Duan Lingtian isn't at the paramount mortal shedding stage? Yanghe, do you think we're so foolish? The outer court disciples surrounding Yanghe became noisy again. He's really not at the paramount mortal shedding stage. Yanghe smiled bitterly. He was not surprised that the people in front of him did not believe him. If he was in their shoes, he also would not have believed the person who had defeated Sengji was not at the paramount mortal shedding stage. A few outer court disciples could not help but frown when they saw the bitter smile on Yanghe's face. Judging by Yanghe's expression, it did not seem like he was lying. Unless he's at the Saint Rudiment stage? One of the outer court disciples asked with a gasp. Saint Rudiment stage. The other outer court disciples were shocked as well. They gulped in unison and stared at Yanghe intently. Yanghe, is he really at the Saint Rudiment stage? If he's at the Saint Rudiment stage, then everything makes sense. A Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse, even if he's merely at the early Saint Rudiment stage, not to mention Zhengji, even the number 1 among the Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples isn't necessarily his match. That's right, Shortly after, a consensus was reached among the several outer court disciples. He's not a martial cultivator at the Saint Rudiment stage. Yanghe shook his head. He's just like us, he's a martial cultivator at the mortal shedding stage. A martial cultivator at the mortal shedding stage? You mean he's just a martial cultivator at the perfection mortal shedding stage? One outer court disciple said with a frown. Hey, Yanghe said the new outer court disciple, Duan Lingtian, who had thoroughly defeated Sengji is just at the perfection mortal shedding stage. Can you believe it? Another outer court disciple shouted toward a group of outer court disciples in the distance. It was as though he could not wait to watch as the world fell into chaos. Duan Lingtian is at the perfection mortal shedding stage. Instantly, the group of outer court disciples in the distance sneered. What a joke. Someone at the perfection mortal shedding stage can defeat senior brother Sengji, who's ranked number 85 in the outer court. Haha, Yanghe, are you daydreaming? Perhaps even Yanghe didn't expect the new disciple he guided into the sect is actually even stronger than senior brother Sengji. Yanghe, are you feeling inferior because you've seen his strength? Is that why you're making up a story so that you can be superior to him in regard to cultivation base? More and more outer court disciples gathered around, and they sneered at Yanghe. Yanghe's face turned red because of this. He could not endure it anymore, and he finally blew up. I didn't say he's at the perfection mortal shedding stage. Let me tell you this, he's at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Mastery mortal shedding stage. It had to be said that Yanghe's words seemed to carry some weight. After he finished speaking, the dozen or so outer disciples surrounding him fell silent. Yanghe could not help but feel pleased when he saw how shocked everyone was. They were scared now. Crazy. This Yanghe is crazy. If he isn't crazy then he must be dreaming, he was just sleep-talking earlier. Someone at the mastery mortal shedding stage defeating someone at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Moreover, he thoroughly defeated him as well. This is definitely the biggest joke I've ever heard in my life. Yonghe, you should take your medicine. The dozen or so outer court disciples were momentarily stunned before they regained their senses and began to mock Yonghe even more than before. They did not even believe him when he said Duan Lingtian was at the perfection mortal shedding stage. How could they believe him when he said Duan Lingtian was actually at the mastery mortal shedding stage? All of you are the crazy ones. All of you are the ones talking in your sleep. All of you are the ones who should take your medicine. Yonghe glared at them as he shouted, "It's okay if you don't believe me, I don't care anyway, you'll know if I'm telling the truth when the others who passed the entrance exam enter the sect." After shouting, Yonghe, who felt he had been wronged, walked away from the crowd and returned to his stone house. There were only a dozen or so outer court disciples left behind, staring at each other. It seems like we've driven Yonghe crazy. Humph, he has good acting skills. In the beginning, I'd believed him. After all, it's not impossible for someone at the perfection mortal shedding stage to defeat someone at the paramount mortal shedding stage. It's not that unbelievable. Yes, I believed him a little in the beginning. Then, he actually said that Duan Lingtian's not at the perfection mortal shedding stage but at the mastery mortal shedding stage. He really thinks we're dumb. To defeat someone at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage with a cultivation base at the mastery mortal shedding stage. That's just nonsense. The group of outer court disciples continued to complain and curse. They did not believe Yonghe's words at all. Suddenly, an observant outer court disciple looked into the distance and yelled, Someone came in, it's Peng Jia. I remember that Peng Jia also followed the outer court's deacon to the entrance exam. The new face beside him is also one of those who passed the entrance exam. That new face, have you seen him before? I haven't. I haven't as well. It seems like he's indeed one of the new disciples who has just passed the entrance exam. Let's go. Let's ask them. Yes, we'll find out for sure before we confront Yonghe. Who asks him to trick us? Moreover, he even got angry at us when he failed to trick us. What a good actor. More than a dozen outer court disciples kept talking as they made their way toward the two people walking in the distance. It was a middle-aged man and a young man. Chapter 1433. The newcomer looked around in amazement. It was obvious it was his first time here at the outer court of Moon Illumination sect. The group of outer court disciples swarmed out and asked in unison, "Hey! Peng Jia, is the one next to you one of the outer court disciples who just passed the entrance exam and joined the sect?" All of you are. The outer court disciple called Peng Jia was in a daze when he saw more than a dozen people crowding him that he did not answer their question. It was only natural that he was stunned by the scene before him. Even the young man next to him had stopped moving. Greetings to all senior brothers. I'm Luo Kong. I just passed the entrance exam and joined the sect. Any advice given would be greatly appreciated, the young man answered politely after he took a deep breath and forced a smile on his face when he heard their question. Haha, indeed, he's one of them. Instantly, many people smiled. One outer court disciple took the lead and asked, Luo Kong, let me ask you this. Do you know Duan Lingtian who passed the entrance exam and joined the sect before you? The other outer court disciple stared at Luo Kong intently, waiting for his answer. I know senior brother Duan, but he might not know me, Luo Kong said with a bitter smile on his face. Luo Kong could not help but feel respect for the purple-clad young man when he thought about him. He was the young prodigy before him who defeated someone at the perfection mortal shedding stage even though his cultivation base was at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Moreover, he had defeated the perfection mortal shedding stage cultivator quickly and in an outrageous manner. Although Luo Kong had also defeated a prodigy at the perfection mortal shedding stage with his mastery mortal shedding stage cultivation base, his opponent had just broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage last month. Moreover, he had spent a lot of effort just to defeat his opponent. The entire process took almost an hour. The eyes of the group of Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples lit up when they heard Luo Kong knew Duan Lingtian. A few of them were impatient and asked urgently, so you know Duan Lingtian, do you know his cultivation base? Yes. Although Luo Kong did not know why these outer court disciples were interested in this matter, he still nodded. It was not a secret anyway. Almost everyone at the entrance exam knew about Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. What's his cultivation base? The group of outer court disciples stared at Luo Kong expectantly. It made him feel a little uncomfortable. At this moment, Luo Kong felt as though he would be committing a crime if he did not tell what he knew. Mastery mortal shedding stage, Luo Kong said honestly under the weight of more than a dozen eyes. When Luo Kong finished his sentence, the dozen or so outer court disciples instantly froze. It seemed as though they had all turned into statues as they stood there, motionless. Luo Kong was shocked by the scene before him. Did his sentence hold such great power? What are all of you doing? Peng Jia, who was standing at the side, asked with a frown. He began to curse them in his heart, these fellows. They're making such a big fuss in front of the new outer court disciple, aren't they embarrassed? Naturally, he only dared to curse them inwardly. Half of the dozen or so outer court disciples in front of him were stronger than him. They were not people he could afford to offend. The first outer court disciple regained his senses. He stared at Luo Kong with eyes as sharp as a goshawk as he asked in a shaky voice, are you sure he's at the Master Immortal shedding stage? I'm sure. Luo Kong nodded. He had a feeling the strange behavior of the group of outer court disciples in front of him was related to Senior Brother Duan. Senior Brother Duan is the first one before me to defeat a Perfection Mortal shedding stage young prodigy with a Mastery Mortal shedding stage cultivation base and join the sect. I know about that. Duan Lingtian is indeed powerful. He appeared behind that Perfection Mortal shedding stage young prodigy and defeated him before he even managed to react, Peng Jia could not help but exclaim. At that time, he had seen everything clearly even though he was quite far away. He's really at the Mastery Mortal shedding stage. Yang, he wasn't lying. Oh, God, what kind of freak is Duan Lingtian? After getting the confirmation from both Luo Kong and Peng Jia, the group of outer court disciples no longer had any doubts. They were finally certain Duan Lingtian was indeed a mere martial cultivator at the Mastery Mortal shedding stage. For a time, they stared at each other with hints of shock and disbelief in their eyes. What happened? Peng Jia asked. He felt that something was not right. Luo Kong was also puzzled. Shortly after, Peng Jia and Luo Kong finally learned about what had transpired when one of the outer court disciples recounted what happened. Duan Lingtian had defeated an outer court disciple as soon as he entered the outer court. That outer court disciple's name was Seng Ji. Initially, Luo Kong did not think anything was amiss. After all, it took Duan Lingtian just an instant to defeat a young prodigy at the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. He would not be surprised even if Duan Lingtian could defeat an outer disciple at the peak of the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. Luo Kong had only reacted like that because he did not know Seng Ji. Luo Kong did not know Seng Ji, but Peng Jia knew him. It took him a while before he regained his senses. He shouted as soon as he came to his senses, "What? He defeated Seng Ji?" Not only did he defeat Seng Ji, but he also thoroughly crushed him. From the beginning to the end, Seng Ji couldn't strike back at all, one of the outer court disciples added. What? Peng Jia was shocked again. Luo Kong also felt a little shocked. After today's entrance exam, he had gained a certain understanding of the general strength of Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples. Apart from those who joined today, the most recent Moon Illumination sect's outer court disciples had joined the sect 5 years ago. 5 years ago, those people were either at the Mastery Mortal shedding stage or the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. Some of them were at the Paramount Mortal shedding stage. Naturally, a large number of them were at the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. Therefore, the weakest among the senior outer court disciples would be at the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. Most of them were at the peak of the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. If that Seng Ji is at the peak of the Perfection Mortal shedding stage, then Senior Brother Duan is too powerful. Thoroughly crushed him, Luo Kong gasped inwardly. No, maybe that Seng Ji is ranked at the end among the senior outer court disciples, perhaps he's just an ordinary cultivator at the Perfection Mortal shedding stage. Luo Kong comforted himself. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Duan Lingtian thoroughly crushed Seng Ji, and he couldn't even strike back. Peng Jia asked hesitantly as he looked at that outer court disciple who told them about this. I'm certain, that outer court disciple nodded. All of us personally witnessed it. Besides, Duan Lingtian is currently residing in Seng Ji's independent courtyard. He's the first outer disciple in Moon Illumination sect's history to reside in an independent courtyard so soon after joining the sect. Independent courtyard. Luo Kong could not but help but gasp while Peng Jia's eyes widened as he trembled in shock. During the journey to the outer court, Luo Kong had learned about the living environment of the outer court from Peng Jia. He knew there were only 100 of the best independent courtyards. Those people residing in the independent courtyards were the top 100 strongest people in the outer court. It should be noted that the Moon Illumination sect had nearly 1,000 outer court disciples. According to Peng Jia, the weakest among the 100 outer court disciples living in the independent courtyards was at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. They were the backbone of the Moon Illumination sect's outer court. Duan, senior brother Duan defeated someone who resided in an independent courtyard. And he thoroughly crushed him. Luo Kang's eyes widened as he shuddered. His legs gave way, and he almost fell to the ground. While the horror on the faces of the dozen or so outer court disciples faded, the entire outer court, apart from those in closed-door cultivation, found out about Duan Lingtian's cultivation base. A commotion broke out in the outer court again. Hey, did you hear? That Duan Lingtian who thoroughly crushed and defeated Zheng Ji is merely a martial cultivator at the mastery mortal shedding stage. Monstrous. That Duan Lingtian is simply monstrous. It's already extremely shocking to be able to defeat an opponent who's a higher level, but he defeated an opponent who's 2 levels higher than him. That's terrifying. The outer court that was original like a pool of stagnant water had turned lively. Apart from those outer court disciples in closed-door cultivation, every outer court disciple knew a monstrous person who could defeat an opponent 2 levels higher than him had joined the sect. However, no matter how lively it was outside, Duan Lingtian remained unaware. The Moon Illumination sect had very strict rules that were different from the latent dragon camp in the city governor's estate of Mount Hill City. In the Moon Illumination sect, no one was allowed to disturb those who were in closed-door cultivation unless they had enmity between them. Naturally, Moon Illumination sect also had rules to prevent people from avoiding difficulties and setbacks. While it was prohibited to disturb those who were in closed-door cultivation, it was possible to challenge someone to a duel outside of the place where they cultivated. One would have to apply for a duel invitation at the outer court elder's office. An outer court elder would have to give their thumbprint if the application was successful. Naturally, if they could not find an outer court elder, they could go to the 2 outer court deacons and ask them for their thumbprints on the duel invitation in order to make it effective. There were 2 types of duel invitation. The first type was an ordinary duel where no killing or crippling were allowed. The second type was a death duel. If it was a death duel, they would need the thumbprints of 2 outer court elders on the death duel invitation. Generally, no one would casually send out a death duel invitation unless there was great enmity involved. Moreover, even if one sent the death duel invitation, the other party had to agree to it. Chapter 1434. The death duel invitation had to have the thumbprints of both parties in addition to the thumbprints of 2 outer court elders. If the other party accepted the invitation, then it would be a fight to the death. They could reject it, but it would be perfectly justifiable for the party who sent the death duel invitation to battle them and teach them a lesson. As long as the latter did not kill or cripple them, they could do anything they want. This was the death duel invitation. As for the general duel invitation, once it was sent out, the other party must accept it as soon as they see it when they come out of closed-door cultivation. If one were to refuse, it would be perfectly justifiable for the person who sent the duel invitation to break in and fight even if one was still in closed-door cultivation. The duel invitation was one of the specialties in the Moon Illumination sect. The Moon Illumination sect's entrance exam ended close to evening. In addition to the 12 young prodigies at the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage who had passed the entrance exam earlier, there were 3 people at the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage who managed to pass the exam as well. Among the hundreds of young prodigies at the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage, apart from 3 people who were eliminated, the remaining entered the outer court of Moon Illumination sect as well. When the outer court elder, Dong Chong, and the 2 outer court deacons returned to the outer court with hundreds of young prodigies at the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage, they also learned about the incident that caused an uproar in the outer court. Duan Lingtian, an outer court disciple at the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage who had recently joined the sect, had thoroughly crushed and defeated Zheng Ji, who was ranked number 85 in the outer court. Moreover, he had taken over Zheng Ji's independent courtyard. How's that possible? He's just at the Mastery Mortal Shedding stage. How can he defeat someone nearing the peak of the Paramount Mortal Shedding stage? Impossible. Even if it's true, he must have planned it with Zheng Ji beforehand. They definitely know each other and decided to put on a show. The group of young prodigies at the Perfection Mortal Shedding stage who just joined the Moon Illumination sect was rattled. Most of them did not believe Duan Lingtian really defeated Zheng Ji. In the crowd, Ling Yun and Shanghu looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Senior brother Duan, he defeated the person who was ranked number 85 in the outer court. Shanghu gasped in surprise. Not only were the new disciples of Moon Illumination sect surprised, but even the outer court elder, Dong Chong, and the 2 outer court deacons were shocked as well. At this moment, they also suspected that Zheng Ji knew Duan Lingtian. In their opinion, this matter was unbelievable. If Zhou Qi finds out, perhaps he'll feel that he was senseless to have only brought away Su Qi away, Ling Yun thought to himself as his eyes gleamed. Zhou Qi was a personal disciple of the Moon Illumination sect's inner court elder, Lu Huan. He came to the city governor's estate of Mound Hill City 6 months ago, killing 2 Saint Rudiment stage powerhouses in the estate and severely injuring the city governor of Mound Hill City. He even brought Su Qi, the oldest disciple of the city governor of Mound Hill City, away. Ling Yun still remembered, in Zhou Qi's eyes, whether it was him, Shang Hu, Jin Yuanbao or Duan Lingtian, none of them was worth mentioning. In Zhou Qi's eyes, Su Qi was the important one. Senior brother Duan's innate talent is not weaker but better than Su Qi. I'm really curious what will Lu Huan and his disciples' expressions will be like when they find out about this, Ling Yun thought to himself. Ling Yun's speculations and thoughts came true that night. Due to the animosity between the Moon Illumination sect's inner court elder, Lu Huan, and the city governor of Mound Hill City, Feng Wei, Feng Hui's every move in the past few years did not escape the surveillance of those on Lu Huan's side. Today, someone from Lu Huan's side had paid attention to the entrance exam of Moon Illumination sect and the new disciples who had joined. Therefore, Lu Huan's favorite disciple, Zhou Qi, received the news at night. In the Moon Illumination sect's inner court area, in the front yard of a spacious residence. You, retreat, Zhou Qi said in frustration. Yes, the person who came to report the matter immediately left the residence. I didn't expect Feng Wei to be so lucky, first, a Su Qi, and now, there's a Duan Lingtian. Zhou Qi's face darkened slightly. Even he had to admit that Feng Wei was outrageously lucky. Su Qi who came from the mortal continent was very promising. Even Zhou Qi had to admit Su Qi's innate talent was higher than his. Due to this reason, Su Qi had been given special attention by his master, Elder Lu Huan, as soon as he was brought back. His strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Currently, he had even entered the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Based on his strength, he would be ranked at the top in the outer court. In the past 6 months, Zhou Qi had begun to grow envious of his master's attention towards Su Qi. However, Su Qi's improvement in the past 6 months and his innate talent seemed ordinary compared to Duan Lingtian. Zhou Qi's mentality had changed because of Duan Lingtian. To be able to thoroughly defeat Zheng Ji, who was ranked number 85 in the outer court even though his cultivation base is only at the mastery mortal shedding stage, I'm certain Zheng Ji didn't know him prior to this, Zhou Qi murmured. To be able to thoroughly defeat someone who's almost at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage with a cultivation base at the mastery mortal shedding stage, even the most monstrous person wouldn't be able to do that. A battle against an opponent who's 2 levels higher is not simple. Naturally, there's also a possibility that Duan Lingtian has broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage after his cultivation base was confirmed by the outer court deacon. Although it's still outrageous for him to be able to thoroughly crush Zheng Ji with a cultivation base at the perfection mortal shedding stage, it's not entirely impossible. In Zhou Qi's heart, he was certain that Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base was at the perfection mortal shedding stage. This was because he found it inconceivable for someone at the mastery mortal shedding stage to thoroughly defeat someone near the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Someone who was ranked number 85 in the outer court would not be an average person. If he was average, he would have been booted out from the independent courtyard by the others. I have to inform Master about this, however, I should look for junior brother Su first. I've never heard him mention Duan Lingtian before this. Zhou Qi went to look for Su Qi with that thought in his mind. Half a year ago, after Su Qi was brought to the Moon Illumination sect by Zhou Qi, he had become an inner court disciple under the recommendation of an inner court elder, Lu Huan. The power of recommendation was granted to the senior officials. Inner court elders are those with a higher position in the sect. Although the outer court deacon's position was equal to the inner court deacon, the former could not recommend someone to become an outer disciple, let alone an inner disciple. The young prodigies that the outer court elders discovered had to pass the entrance exam to join the sect. Although there was only a level of difference between the outer court elders, inner court deacons and inner court elders, the gap was considerably wide. In the Moon Illumination sect, only inner court elders or above were considered as senior officials and decision-makers. Although the inner court elders enjoyed a lofty status, they had to possess superior strength, they had to be powerhouses at the paramount saint stage in order to become an inner court elder. Only saint stage powerhouses could enter the top management of the Moon Illumination sect and laugh in the wind. After becoming the Moon Illumination sect's inner court disciple, Su Qi stayed in Lu Huan's estate. He had an independent courtyard to himself in the estate. During the past 6 months, he had lived in seclusion, and his cultivation base had improved by leaps and bounds due to the guidance and special attention from Lu Huan. Junior brother, Su Qi, who was practicing his saint-grade martial tactic in the courtyard, suddenly heard a voice outside. He paused and looked around, puzzled. He, naturally, recognized the owner of the voice. However, he was curious as to why the other party would come looking for him. In the past 6 months, the other party did not look for him after he had brought him here. In fact, as time passed, the other party seemed to be alienating him even though he was not sure if it was intentional or not. It was not difficult for him to guess the reason. There was no doubt he was jealous of the attention Master had been paying him. Senior brother, Su Qi did not dare to put on airs in front of Zhou Qi. He immediately opened his gate and welcomed Zhou Qi once he heard his voice. Junior brother, after half a year, have you gotten used to living here? Zhou Qi asked with a smile. However, his smile seemed contrived. Su Qi answered but did not nod. There was a flash in Zhou Qi's eyes as he stared at Su Qi. He bluntly asked, Junior brother, you should know that there's a disciple under the city governor of Mount Hill City called Duan Lingtian, right? Duan Lingtian. When Su Qi heard this name again, he felt something in his heart. Back then, even his original master, Feng Wei, the city governor of Mount Hill City, thought he was not as good as Duan Lingtian. He even advised him to not fight with Duan Lingtian over the title Great Senior Brother. Due to that reason, he had challenged Duan Lingtian to a duel. Before the result came out, Zhou Qi had appeared and interrupted them. Although there was no clear result, he had to admit the innate talent and strength of Duan Lingtian, who came from the mortal continent like him, were better than his. Naturally, he was no longer like his former self from half a year ago. In the past 6 months, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. If he met Duan Lingtian again, he was confident he would definitely win. I know him. Su Qi nodded in response to Zhou Qi's question. He secretly did some calculations earlier. Today seemed to be the day of the Moon Illumination sect's entrance exam that was held every 5 years. Duan Lingtian must have come, representing Mount Hill City. It seems that Duan Lingtian's performance during the entrance exam is pretty good, otherwise, it wouldn't have alarmed Zhou Qi. It was not difficult for Su Qi to guess this. Once he entered the sect, he defeated Sengji, who was ranked number 85 in the outer court. He's an outer court disciple near the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage, Zhou Qi said. What? Su Qi's eyes widened, and his expression turned tense when he heard Zhou Qi's words. Chapter 1435. Although Su Qi had become an inner court disciple once he joined the Moon Illumination sect, he was still privy to the matters concerning the outer court. The top 100 people in the outer court lived in exclusive independent courtyards. The weakest among them was near the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Accordingly, almost all of the outer court disciples who ranked in the top 50 in the outer court were at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. In fact, the top few people were actually ranked in the Earth ranking. The Earth ranking was a list of 100 most outstanding paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouses in all the sects in the 9 sect alliances. The 9 sect alliances was formed by 9 7th-rate sects to jointly resist the invasion of 6th-rate forces. The Moon Illumination sect was one of the 7th-rate sects. Paramount mortal shedding stage powerhouses that were ranked in the Earth ranking were mostly at the peak of the mortal shedding stage. The strength of those who ranked at the end was comparable to ordinary martial or Dao cultivators at the early Saint Rudiment stage. Those ranked at the top could even defeat ordinary martial or Dao cultivators at the early Saint Rudiment stage. It seems that even Su Qi is not aware of Duan Lingtian, strength. Zhou Qi figured this out as soon as he saw the expression on Su Qi's face. When Duan Lingtian defeated Sengji, he had thoroughly suppressed him from the beginning until the end. Sengji had no chance to strike back at all. I'm afraid he's even stronger than you are, junior brother Su, Zhou Qi continued saying, seemingly unintentionally provoking Su Qi. Thoroughly suppressed. Zhou Qi's words shocked Su Qi again. It seems that Duan Lingtian has improved a lot in the past 6 months as well. He might be even stronger than I was 6 months ago. However, it's definitely not by much. Su Qi gasped inwardly. Although his battle with Duan Lingtian half a year ago did not have any result due to Zhou Qi's appearance, he knew that Duan Lingtian was slightly stronger than he was. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was only slightly stronger than him. He had thought his strength would overtake Duan Lingtian in these 6 months since his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. He did not expect Duan Lingtian's strength would also improve at such a terrifying rate. Even then, he, naturally, did not think Duan Lingtian was stronger than him. He was confident he could also thoroughly suppress that person who was ranked number 85 in the outer court. Therefore, he felt his strength should be on par with Duan Lingtian. Zhou Qi frowned. He seemed displeased when Su Qi did not respond to him. However, he quickly unfurrowed his brows and put on a fake smile on his face. Junior brother Su, you and Duan Lingtian are formerly brothers after all, are you interested in meeting him? Senior brother Zhou, I'm not close to him, Su Qi said faintly. He could tell Zhou Qi was trying to provoke him. If there's nothing else, I won't send you off, senior brother, I'm planning to return to my cultivation room. After saying that, Su Qi turned and returned to his room without waiting for a response from Zhou Qi. Zhou Qi's face darkened completely when he saw Su Qi closing the door behind him. Su Qi dares to rely on master's favoritism and take me lightly, damn it. Half a year ago, Su Qi was as gentle as a cat in front of him. However, the cat seemed to have transformed into a tiger and surpassed him now. He found it somewhat unacceptable. However, he also knew that Su Qi had gained sufficient support. With his master's favor, he did not dare to openly bully Su Qi even if he was his senior brother. He had no doubt that his master would disregard their relationship for this disciple whom he had accepted 6 months ago. The things that matter the most to his master was his disciple's martial Dao innate talent. He knew that better than anyone else. If he and Su Qi were in danger, and his master could only save one person, his master who definitely saved Su Qi. He did not doubt this at all. Perhaps, there's no need to tell master about Duan Lingtian for now. Ever since Su Qi came, master has been rather elusive. No matter how the news spread, it's possible master might not find out. A crazy idea suddenly appeared in Zhou Qi's mind. Destroy him. Zhou Qi planned to destroy Duan Lingtian. That Duan Lingtian's innate talent is even better than Su Qi, my position has fallen with Su Qi around. If there's another Duan Lingtian, will I have any position at all at that time? Zhou Qi shuddered inwardly. If his master discovered Duan Lingtian was even more talented than Su Qi, and he was from the city governor's estate of Mount Hill City, master would definitely accept Duan Lingtian as his personal disciple. He was unwilling to see that happen. His current thought was simple. He wanted to destroy Duan Lingtian. Even if his master learned about Duan Lingtian's innate talent later, he would only scold him a little. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian would never get the chance to be his master's disciple. 6 months ago, master asked me to bring Su Qi back to the Moon Illumination sect. I didn't have a choice but to raise a tiger. This time, I must destroy Duan Lingtian before master discovers his innate talent. There was a cold gleam in Zhou Qi's eyes. By destroying Duan Lingtian, he did not want to give Duan Lingtian a chance to recover. Certainly, the Moon Illumination sect had its own rules prohibiting them from killing or crippling one another. Generally, murderers would receive capital punishment, but those who caused permanent disability would be able to escape death. Although the punishment was severe, the punishment was not equal to the crime. Zhou Qi wanted to cripple Duan Lingtian. At that time, no matter how talented Duan Lingtian was, Zhou Qi's master would not see him. As long as he was not seen, he could not compete for attention with Zhou Qi and step on his head as Su Qi did. I think Su Qi wouldn't be so silly as to mention Duan Lingtian to master. In that case, my plan can be implemented smoothly. Zhou Qi had a complete plan in his mind. With that thought, he left the mansion and the inner court to the outer court. Soon after, at a remote area in the outer court, someone appeared next to Zhou Qi. It was a middle-aged man. Judging by his looks, he could even be Zhou Qi's father. However, that middle-aged man seemed to be very respectful toward Zhou Qi. Lin Fu, you should know I won't look for you if there's nothing. Since I came looking for you, there's something I need you to do for me, Zhou Qi said faintly. Yes. Senior brother Zhou, what's your order? Lin Fu asked respectfully. I heard there's a new disciple called Duan Lingtian in the outer court area. He only recently joined, but he defeated Sengji who was ranked number 85 in the outer court. Zhou Qi asked. Yes, I've heard about it. Lin Fu nodded. I met Sengji after that, however, Sengji said he's not necessarily weaker than Duan Lingtian. The reason he was thoroughly suppressed was due to some demon method Duan Lingtian used. Demon method? Zhou Qi frowned. What does that mean? He said there were 2 instances when his attack was about to land on Duan Lingtian, but it suddenly shifted to the side and missed Duan Lingtian. Lin Fu recounted everything Seng Ji had told him. Duan Lingtian seized both opportunities to severely injure him so he could not strike back. Humph. His skills are just lacking, and yet, he has so many excuses. What demon method? Who'd believe that? Zhou Qi snorted. I don't believe it as well. Lin Fu nodded. I guess Seng Ji is unresigned to that fact, so he thought of such a lousy excuse. However, he didn't think through it. Even if he tells this to everyone, who would believe him? Set this matter aside. Zhou Qi went straight to the point. Lin Fu, the thing I'm about to ask you to do is closely related to my master, hence, you must do it properly. It's related to Elder Lu Huan. When Lin Fu heard that, he immediately brightened. Senior brother Zhou, please tell me. His master was an outer court deacon of the Moon Illumination sect. When he was young, he was always at Elder Lu Huan's side, and he was close to him. The fact was, Lin Fu was just follower, but he was unwilling to admit that. Due to this reason, he could be considered as being on Lu Huan's side. Did you know that Duan Lingtian is from Mount Hill City? Zhou Qi asked bluntly. Mount Hill City. Upon hearing Zhou Qi's words, Lin Fu's eyes widened in shock. He was certainly no stranger to Mount Hill City. It was impossible for those on Elder Lu Huan's side to not know about Mount Hill City. It was not because Mount Hill City was one of the 18 cities under Moon Illumination sect. Instead, it was because of the animosity between the city governor of Mount Hill City, Feng Wei, and Elder Lu Huan. Senior brother Zhou, didn't you bring Feng Hui's most outstanding disciple, Su Qi, back to the sect 6 months ago? Why didn't you bring Duan Lingtian along? His innate talent doesn't seem inferior to Su Qi. Lin Fu asked, puzzled. 6 months ago, I couldn't tell his innate talent is better than Su Qi. However, I did intend to bring him back and ask him to join my master. However, he rejected it. Moreover, he rejected it resolutely and decisively. Zhou Qi made up a story as he continued saying, if I knew then his innate talent is higher than Su Qi, I would have killed him then and there. It was my mistake for not killing him then. I didn't expect that one mistake in the past would raise a tiger. Zhou Qi was obviously enraged. He really didn't know how to appreciate favors. A glimpse of envy flashed in Lin Fu's eyes as his face turned cold. He asked, Senior brother Zhou, the thing that you want me to do is related to Duan Lingtian. That's right. Zhou Qi nodded. Your strength is at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage, and you're ranked number 47 in the outer court. I want you to send a duel invitation to Duan Lingtian and force him to battle you. Senior brother Zhou, since he thoroughly suppressed Seng Ji, he'll be evenly matched with me at the very least. In fact, he might be even stronger than me. I'm afraid I'm not capable of teaching him a lesson, Lin Fu said awkwardly. Chapter 1436. I don't need you to teach him a lesson. Zhou Qi shook his head. You don't need me to teach him a lesson. Lin Fu was puzzled. He did not understand what Zhou Qi was trying to do. I want you to test his strength. I'll find someone else to deal with him later, Zhou Qi replied nonchalantly. Understood. Lin Fu nodded. This is simple. It was indeed simple. In his opinion, it was nothing more than issuing a duel invitation. Even if he was not a match for Duan Lingtian, he would be taught a lesson at the most. With the sect's rules, he believed Duan Lingtian would not cripple or kill him. If it was not a death duel invitation, they would have to repay with their own lives if they killed someone. I'll wait for the good news from you tomorrow. After Zhou Qi was done, he left the outer court under the cover of the night and returned to the inner court. The next morning, Lin Fu looked for Dong Chong, an outer court elder. Elder Dong Chong, I want to issue a duel invitation. Please stamp your fingerprint here. As he was speaking, he took out a duel invitation that he had prepared beforehand. Dong Chong took the duel invitation. Without even looking at it, he smiled and asked, Lin Fu, who are you going to challenge this time? Lin Fu was ranked 47th in the Moon Illumination sect's outer court. He had fought his way up there. Dong Chong thought Lin Fu wanted to challenge the outer court disciple above him when he said he wanted to issue a duel invitation. Elder Dong Chong, the person I want to challenge this time is a little special. Lin Fu smiled. Oh, curious. Dong Chong looked at the duel invitation in his hand. When he saw the 3 words, Duan Lingtian, written on it, he could not help but feel shocked for a moment. Why you want to challenge that new disciple? Yes. Lin Fu nodded. Lin Fu, you must think this over carefully. Currently, Duan Lingtian is only ranked 85th in the outer court. It's fine if you challenge him and win. However, if you lose, you'll fall a place behind, and he'll be ranked 47th thanks to you, Dong Chong reminded him with a complicated expression on his face. Duan Lingtian was the young genius he had taken a liking to during the entrance exam yesterday. It was unfortunate Duan Lingtian was unwilling to become his disciple. After the entrance exam ended, he returned to the outer court and heard about the strength Duan Lingtian had demonstrated when he defeated Seng Ji. He was bewildered after he heard the entire story. In that instant, the anger that rose in his heart from Duan Lingtian's rejection instantly vanished without a trace. He knew very well that with Duan Lingtian's innate talent and strength, he was unworthy to become his teacher. Even if he had forcefully taken Duan Lingtian as a disciple, he would only lead the young man astray. I've already made up mind, Lin Fu replied and nodded. He was issuing the duel invitation to Duan Lingtian to test his strength, not to defeat him. This was so senior brother Zhou Qi could find a way to deal with him. Even if he was defeated, he would only fall by a place. It was not a big issue. Moreover, if Duan Lingtian was indeed more powerful than him, he would eventually move forward even if he did not challenge him. At that time, he would still fall a place. What do you think of Duan Lingtian? Dong Chong asked as he pressed a fingerprint on the duel invitation. The duel invitation was made from a special kind of paper. As long as one pressed on it with one's true energy on the fingerprint would automatically appear. I suspect Duan Lingtian must have broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage after he passed the first stage of the entrance exam, Lin Fu replied. It's impossible for someone at the mastery mortal shedding stage to defeat a person who's almost at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. I think so too. Since you're issuing a challenge to him, I can seize this opportunity to assess him as well. Dong Chong nodded before he returned the duel invitation to Lin Fu. Thank you, Elder Dong Chong. After Lin Fu received the duel invitation, he instantly went to the independent courtyard Duan Lingtian was residing in. This independent courtyard originally belonged to Seng Ji, so Lin Fu knew the way very well. Standing outside the courtyard, Lin Fu raised a hand and sent the duel invitation out. Using a secret force, he inserted the duel invitation at the crack between the shut door and its frame. Lin Fu looked at the duel invitation and finally left after the scene before him was imprinted in his mind. As long as Duan Lingtian opened the door, the duel invitation would definitely fall. Even if he deliberately placed the duel invitation back to its original spot, he would not be able to place it at the exact same place that Lin Fu had placed it. At that time, even if he intended to go into closed-door cultivation, Lin Fu would be able to barge into his house without violating the sect's rules. Duel invitation. Duan Lingtian opened the door and walked out of the room before he picked up the duel invitation from the floor. A month had passed since then. Naturally, that meant he had spent 3 months inside the second level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Lin Fu. Duan Lingtian saw the signature on the duel invitation as soon as he opened it. Duan Lingtian walked out of the courtyard as he casually put the duel invitation away. I originally came out to take a breath and see where Ling Yun and Shanghu are. I didn't expect someone is waiting for me to come out all this time. After looking at the duel invitation in his hands, Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. Duan Lingtian stopped an outer court disciple who was passing by and asked with a smile, "Senior brother, do you know Lin Fu?" "Yes, I do." The outer court disciple nodded before asking with a smile, "You're a new disciple who entered the sect a month ago, right?" This outer court disciple happened to be in closed-door cultivation a month ago. Due to this reason, he did not recognize Duan Lingtian even though he had heard of his name. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. He could guess the intention behind the outer court disciple's question. He knew very well he would make a name for himself in the outer court from the moment he had defeated Seng Ji. All of the outer court disciples knew he was staying in the independent courtyard Seng used to live in. The person who issued the duel invitation could not be inferior to Seng Ji. Such a person must be well known in the outer court. Only those new disciples who had just entered the Moon Illumination sect a month ago like him did not know who he was. The outer court disciple whom Duan Lingtian stopped warned him, "Junior brother, next time you can't just address senior brother Lin Fu by his name. Senior brother Lin Fu is ranked 47th in our outer court." He's ranked 47th in the outer court. Duan Lingtian finally understood. Just as he had expected, the person who issued the duel invitation was not just an ordinary outer court disciple. That Sangji was ranked 85th, and he's already close to the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. There's no doubt this Lin Fu who issued the dual invitation must be at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. How timely. Although I'm still a step away from breaking through to the perfection mortal shedding stage, my body has undergone an earth-shattering transformation after fusing with the five-clawed devil dragon's blood essence. Since Lin Fu came knocking on my door, I can use him as a test. Duan Lingtian's battle intent rose up in his heart immediately. Although his cultivation base had yet to break through, his body had already undergone a transformation. Due to this reason, his brute strength had also improved a lot. Currently, he was confident he could suppress and defeat Sangji even if he did not use the strange pupil's energy. He would not have been interested if that person was at the same level as Sangji. However, Lin Fu seemed to be at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Senior brother, have you heard of Duan Lingtian? Duan Lingtian asked the outer court disciple as a light bulb suddenly went on in his mind. Of course, I have, the outer court disciple replied as though it was a matter of course. He said in one breath, he's the most monstrous person among the new batch that entered the outer court. Moreover, he even made history by obtaining an independent courtyard to stay in as soon as he entered the sect. Let alone the outer court, I think even people in the inner court must have heard of his name now. Duan Lingtian nodded. He was not surprised. He had only asked to be certain. With my fame in the outer court, that Lin Fu still dares to challenge me, in this case, he must be at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. It looks like I'll have another opportunity to crack my knuckles after these 3 months, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He looked at the outer court disciple again and asked with a smile, Senior brother, do you know which independent courtyard Lin Fu is staying in? It's senior brother Duan Lingtian. It's really him. Before the outer court disciple had time to reply, 2 other outer court disciple who was just passing by exclaimed out loud. Their gaze was filled with hints of respect and fear when they looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, the outer court disciple who was stopped by Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard the 2 outer court disciples' words. This purple-clad young man standing in front of him was Duan Lingtian. Senior brother, I didn't intend to deliberately conceal this, it's just that I saw a dual invitation from Lin Fu as soon as I came out from my closed-door cultivation. I was just preparing to accept his challenge. Duan Lingtian smiled apologetically before waving the dual invitation in his hand. Senior brother Lin Fu issued a dual invitation to you. Upon hearing this, the outer court disciple who stood in front of Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes immediately as a baffled expression appeared on his face. After a long while, he finally regained his senses. Awkwardly, he smiled. Senior brother Duan, I'm sorry for not recognizing you earlier. In the world of martial artists, the strong ones always come first. From now on, just address me as junior brother please. Duan Lingtian shook his head and sighed inwardly. It's another person who's similar to Yang He. Senior brother Lin Fu issued a challenge to senior brother Duan Lingtian. The 2 outer court disciples who were passing by immediately spread the news. In just 15 minutes, almost all the outer sect disciples, except for those who were in closed-door cultivation, heard of this shocking news. Naturally, they knew who Lin Fu was. He was ranked 47th in the outer court, and he was powerful. Moreover, he was also at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. However, they were also familiar with the name, Duan Lingtian. He had defeated the person who was ranked 85th and took over the spot as soon as he entered the sect. Currently, Lin Fu had issued a challenge to Duan Lingtian. Haha, I almost went into closed-door cultivation and missed this battle. Let's go, let's join in and watch the fun. Senior brother Duan Lingtian is just too awesome. He directly accepted the challenge. He's so manly. I hope senior brother Lin Fu is not in closed-door cultivation so we can watch this fierce battle between a dragon and tiger today. All of the disciples in the outer court moved toward the training field. Chapter 1437, at the training field in the outer court of Moon Illumination Sect. A group of outer court disciples was standing in a circle in the middle of the training field. In the open space, a young man and a middle-aged man were locked in a stalemate, preparing to battle. Whoosh! Without warning, the young man raised a hand, and a special light paper floated out. It finally dropped down when it floated until it was in front of the middle-aged man. 2 lines of distinctive words were written on this special paper. Apart from that, there were also 3 fingerprints on it. It was none other than a dual invitation. Although I've no idea why you issued a dual invitation to me, it doesn't matter anymore, Duan Lingtian said to Lin Fu calmly after he sent the dual invitation back to him. That's right, it doesn't matter anymore. Lin Fu's eyes flashed when he looked at Duan Lingtian as he put the dual invitation away. You, Duan Lingtian, have created such a huge commotion the moment you entered the sect. Today, I, Lin Fu, will teach you a lesson. I'll show you that we, the senior outer court disciples, are not easily bullied. I've never thought the senior outer court disciples are easily bullied. The conflict I have with Sengji happened because of him, I'm sure everyone here knows this, Duan Lingtian replied nonchalantly. The group of onlookers nodded their heads. They knew this very well. Humph, cut the crap, and let's discover the truth through battle. Lin Fu snorted. Aren't you the one who began to talk crap first? Duan Lingtian shook his head as he smiled indifferently, a helpless expression on his face. Many people standing at the side laughed immediately. You're seeking death. Lin Fu's face turned grave instantly. He did not speak as his body flashed. It was as though he had transformed into a large bird when his true energy stretched out and fluttered in the sky, giving the appearance of two flapping wings. In just a blink of an eye, Lin Fu had already arrived in front of Duan Lingtian. A 3-foot-long sword appeared in his hand suddenly and emitted a dazzling true energy light. It was pointed at Duan Lingtian. Swish, 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 swish. The moment Lin Fu pointed his sword, the sound of sword whistling reverberated in the air. Sword rays similar to a meteor shower appeared and rushed toward Duan Lingtian. Body and arrow synchronization. Long before Lin Fu had arrived in front of him, Duan Lingtian had already taken out his sun-shooting bow and stored his energy. Seeing how Lin Fu had struck, he instantly shot an arrow with all his might. In the next instant, Duan Lingtian stepped on the arrow and flew out, causing Lin Fu's sword technique to miss. Take my arrow, Duan Lingtian announced indifferently. With just a raise of his hand, the arrow that was solidified from true energy shot out immediately. Why did he shoot the arrow into the sky? Many people were stunned when they saw Duan Lingtian shoot his arrow into the sky. Soon after, they received an answer. When the arrow soared up into the sky, thousands of arrow rays fell with a howl in just a blink of an eye. It was extremely similar to a meteor shower, and it was so imposing that Lin Fu's sword technique could not compare to it at all. If the sword technique Lin Fu had cast earlier was similar to a drizzle of rain, then the arrow light shower Duan Lingtian just cast was like pouring rain. The rain poured down like cats and dogs, enveloping Lin Fu in it. It did not allow him to escape at all. What an insignificant trick. Lin Fu was at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage after all. When he snorted, he flicked the 3-foot-long sword in his hand, and it began to rise and twirl in the air. Wherever the sword rays landed instantly turned into a whirlpool. Spiral sword ray. Many people exclaimed in a low voice. It was apparent they recognized the technique Lin Fu had just cast. As the whirlpool rose up into the sky, the shower of arrows that covered the sky was instantly swallowed by it until it vanished completely. It was as though they were never there at all. Do you only have such weak skills? Lin Fu mocked as he watched Duan Lingtian fly away by stepping on his arrow. Take another arrow then, Duan Lingtian replied nonchalantly. He lifted the sun-shooting bow with his left hand again. True energy shot out of his right hand before it solidified into a sharp arrow that slid on the bowstring. The bowstring trembled faintly as Duan Lingtian pulled it back slightly. Currently, even after he had broken through to the master immortal shedding stage and had undergone 2 transformations on his body, he still had a long way to go before he could pull the bowstring into a full moon shape. No matter what, the bowstring of the sun-shooting bow was still made from the tendon of a 5-clawed devil dragon. With his current strength, he was still unable to pull it all the way back. His eyes narrowed instantly as soon as he knocked the arrow. In this instant, Duan Lingtian's aura seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering transformation. The group of outer court disciple watching by the side had also noticed this. Senior brother Duan is going to unleash his full strength now. Shanghu, who standing in the crowd, began to get excited. Ling Yu was standing next to him. Although he did not say anything, his eyes were filled with anticipation. As the arrow underneath his feet began to fade and disappear, Duan Lingtian gradually descended. It seemed like there was only one person left in his sight. Lin Fu. After his eyes locked on Lin Fu, Duan Lingtian's right hand that was holding onto the arrow gradually loosened its grip. Lin Fu's expression turned grave immediately. At this moment, his heart was in a panic. It was as though the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand was a great savage beast. Arrow light strike. Finally, the bowstring trembled as the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand shot out. It was as though it had transformed into a bolt of lightning. Everything in its surrounding appeared dull in comparison. At this instant, the streak of lightning was like a meteorite soaring through the pitch-black sky. It was short but beautiful. Meanwhile, Lin Fu made his move as well. His sword rays shot out in all directions with great momentum. Boom! Before the group of outer court disciple watching from the side could react, a thunderous explosion resonated by their ears. In the next instant, they clearly saw Lin Fu, who was originally standing upright in high spirits, suddenly had one of his knees on the ground as he supported himself with his sword. Even the robe on his body was torn in half. Moreover, his long hair had also fallen on his shoulders because his hairband had snapped. Currently, his appearance was similar to a beggar. A tyrannical hurricane swept out with Lin Fu in the center, causing the spectators' robes to flutter loudly in the wind. Barf! Lin Fu's face was completely flushed. He could not endure it anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. When he raised his head to look at Duan Lingtian again, hints of shock and disbelief were clearly seen in his eyes. Earlier, he had waited for Duan Lingtian's attack without moving because he was confident of his own strength. He thought he would be able to take down the arrow that Duan Lingtian had shot out. It was only when the arrow that was solidified from true energy collided with his strongest sword technique that he finally realized how much of a fool he was. Just the force contained in the glimpse of Duan Lingtian's arrow was far greater than his sword technique. Although Duan Lingtian did not win by much, he had still won the duel. Not only did Duan Lingtian manage to overpower his sword technique, but he had even injured him, causing him to look extremely wretched. Number 47 in the outer court. So that's all to it. Before the group of people watching by the side could even react, Duan Lingtian had put his sun-shooting bow away. He glanced at Lin Fu indifferently. It angered Lin Fu so much that he spat out few mouthfuls of blood again. Although Lin Fu was angry, he could not refute his statement at all. Who asked him to be so careless? Otherwise, even if he had lost, he would not have lost so quickly. When the group of onlookers finally returned to their senses, and a commotion broke out, Duan Lingtian had already gone to stand with Ling Yun and Shanghu. Let's go. Let's find another place to talk. Duan Lingtian led the way. The group of outer court disciples parted and made way for him as he walked. The eyes that looked at him were filled with hints of respect and fear. This was a world where the strong thrived and were respected. It had nothing to do with whether Duan Lingtian had just entered the sect, his age or his position. The group of outer court disciples only regained their senses when Duan Lingtian and the other two silhouettes vanished from their sights. A commotion broke out, instantly breaking the temporary silence. Senior brother Duan Lingtian is just too formidable. That's right. In my eyes, the arrow was just like a meteorite that disappears the moment it appears. Before I even realized what was going on, the meteorite had already crashed into senior brother Lin Fu. It's indeed a stroke of genius. At the very least, even senior brother Lin Fu, who was ranked 47th in the outer sect, could not endure it. In my opinion, it's possible for senior brother Lingtian to make it into the top 30 with his strength. It's really unimaginable that senior brother Duan is merely an outer court disciple who just entered the sect a month ago. He's not even 40 years old yet. His innate talent is really peerless. The group of outer court disciples who were watching by the side buried their heads together in a discussion. Their tones were filled with admiration toward Duan Lingtian. All of you seem to have forgotten one thing. When senior brother Duan went through the first phase of the entrance exam a month ago, he was only at the Master Immortal shedding stage. His cultivation base is only at the Master Immortal shedding stage, but he still managed to defeat our outer sect's senior brother Sengji, who was ranked 85th, and senior brother Lin Fu, who was ranked 47th. It's impossible. I think Duan Lingtian must have already broken through to the perfection mortal shedding stage before he fought with senior brother Sengji. I think so too, otherwise, it's just impossible. Upon hearing the discussion of the outer court disciples, an old man standing by the side of the training field shook his head. There was a baffled expression on his face. This was because when he used his spiritual energy to probe Duan Lingtian's cultivation base earlier, he discovered Duan Lingtian was still at the Master Immortal shedding stage. Don't tell me Duan Lingtian knows some secret technique that can conceal his cultivation base. In this case, it's useless to use the spiritual secret tactic on him. The old man was none other than Elder Dong Chong of the outer court. He was the outer court elder who placed his fingerprint on the duel invitation that Lin Fu issued to Duan Lingtian. When Changhu saw Duan Lingtian suddenly turned and frowned, he asked, puzzled, Senior brother Duan, what's the matter? It's nothing. Duan Lingtian shook his head, but his heart was a little unhappy. He did not offend that outer court elder, Dong Chong, right? It was not the entrance exam, how dare he blatantly probe his cultivation base? Did he really think Duan Lingtian was that nice a person? At this moment, whatever fondness he had for Dong Chong vanished without a trace. After they had arrived at a more secluded place, Duan Lingtian came to a halt and asked, where are two of you staying now? Chapter 1438, We're not as powerful as you are, Senior brother Duan. We're living in the wooden house district now. Shanghu felt a little embarrassed by Duan Lingtian's question. Now that you've caused such a commotion, Lu Huan will soon find out about this. After this, you better be careful, and don't leave the sect, Ling Yun warned Duan Lingtian as he looked at him solemnly. I think he has already found out by now, Duan Lingtian answered nonchalantly. Ling Yun and Shanghu were dumbfounded. If I'm not mistaken, that Lin Fu who issued the duel invitation is actually Lu Huan's man. Although he spoke in a high-handed manner, I could tell the idea did not come from him just by the look in his eyes. The eyes would not be able to lie. Apart from the rebirth martial emperor's 2 reincarnations, Duan Lingtian had already undergone 2 reincarnations. His judgment was very accurate due to this. If that Lin Fu is really Lu Huan's man, then Lu Huan will be angered that he's defeated by you. I'm afraid Lin Fu is only the beginning, Ling Yun said anxiously. To sum it up, Lu Huan's men will definitely focus on me for the time being. Use this period of time, cultivate with all your might and raise your strength as much as possible, Duan Lingtian added. If they find out they're unable to go against me in the sect, they'll definitely shift their attention to both of you. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Ling Yun and Shanghu's face turned grave immediately. They knew very well that Duan Lingtian was not exaggerating just to scare them. The two of them immediately bade farewell to Duan Lingtian and returned to their respective wooden house to cultivate. Duan Lingtian's words had given them immense pressure. It felt as though a mountain had just crashed down on them. Lu Huan, Duan Lingtian muttered as his eyes gleamed coldly. If he found out about this when he had unwillingly acknowledged Fang Wei, the city governor of Mount Hill City, as his teacher in the beginning, he would have remained indifferent to the matter between him and Lu Huan. However, during the 6 months he had stayed in Mount Hill City, he had truly regarded Fang Wei as his teacher due to the sincere care he had given him. The incident that left the deepest impression on him was the matter regarding the Zheng clan. The 3 Zheng clan's members had tried to kill him when he left the city governor's estate. The instant execution of the 3 people was just the beginning. On that day itself, the entire New South Town's Zheng clan was annihilated. All of this was ordered by his teacher. Put aside his opinion on whether he agreed with Fang Hui's extreme method of handling the matter, his heart was still enveloped with warmth. After all, Fang Wei was just trying to protect him and seek revenge on his behalf. He, Duan Lingtian, was not an iron-hearted person. After discovering his teacher, Fang Wei, had been humiliated by Lu Huan from the Moon Illumination sect, he had decided to come to Moon Illumination sect to use it as a stepping stone and also deal with his teacher's matter. At the very least, he had to make sure that Lu Huan dies. Naturally, that included Zhou Qi, his direct disciple. Although the Moon Illumination sect had a rule that forbade killing, these so-called rules were all set by the powerhouses. His strength did not even have to surpass the few saint stage powerhouses in the Moon Illumination sect, he only needed to be on par with them before he could ignore their rules. Teacher, don't worry, there will come one day when you'll be able to walk with your head held high, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. After Lin Fu, I'm sure Lu Huan's men will still have other tricks up their sleeves. What's more important now is to break through to the perfection mortal shedding stage. Although he managed to win the battle with Lin Fu quickly, it did not mean he had the ability to single-handedly overpower Lin Fu. Although his strength had improved by leaps and bounds due to his body's 2 transformations, he could only overpower people like Sengji who was at the paramount mortal shedding stage. As for people at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage, Sengji was not comparable to them at all. Today, if Lin Fu had not been so careless and underestimated him, he was not confident he could defeat Lin Fu in less than 30 moves. When Duan Lingtian returned to his independent courtyard to cultivate, the outer court that had been quiet for a month broke out in a commotion again. The spotlight was, naturally, on Duan Lingtian. Inside a vast mansion in the inner court. You trash. Upon hearing about Lin Fu's situation during the battle, Zhou Qi was livid. That night itself, he left the mansion to look for Lin Fu. Senior brother Zhou, I've let you down. Lin Fu felt a little guilty when he saw Zhou Qi. Humph, you were defeated in 2 moves. You're brilliant, aren't you? How much did you find out about his strength? Zhou Qi asked after he snorted. Senior brother Zhou, I was careless today, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defeat me even in 180 moves. The moment Lin Fu recalled the battle, he felt a little aggrieved. If he had not been so careless, how could that Duan Lingtian defeat him? Didn't you hear me? Zhou Qi's face darkened immediately when he saw Lin Fu trying to evade the subject and steer clear of the crucial point. Senior brother Zhou, I don't dare to speak for others, but I, more or less, have a grasp on Duan Lingtian's strength. When he shot the last arrow, he had already cast the silver shirt. This means he must have unleashed his full strength, Lin Fu quickly replied when he saw Zhou Qi's expression. Other than being a defensive technique, the silver shirt could also strengthen one's body once it was cast. This was not a secret to Lin Fu. When Duan Lingtian shot the arrow and cast that silver shirt, it was obvious that he had accumulated his strength and struck with all his might. Do you think he'll able to enter the top 30 in the outer court with his strength? Zhou Qi asked. I think so, Lin Fu replied truthfully after pondering for a while. I can't believe there's actually another person who's even more monstrous than Su Qi in Mount Hill City. I can't leave this Duan Lingtian alive. If Master finds out about him, he'll definitely want to take him in as a direct disciple. The moment Zhou Qi thought of this, he began to feel a sense of urgency. He was tempted to barge into the independent courtyard Duan Lingtian was staying him and directly kill him. However, he managed to calm himself down in the end. He knew he would succeed in killing Duan Lingtian, but he would have to forfeit his life as punishment. Due to this reason, no matter how much he wanted Duan Lingtian dead, he would not be so stupid to make a move himself. Even if I can't directly make a move, there'll be somebody else who can make a move. With Duan Lingtian's innate talent, his position will most likely be even higher than Su Qi if he's taken as a direct disciple by Master. Zhou Qi had no doubt about this. He was almost certain Duan Lingtian's innate talent was higher than Su Qi's. When Lin Fu saw Zhou Qi keeping quiet for such a long time as his expression changed constantly, he began to panic and called out to him, Senior brother Zhou. When Zhou Qi finally regained his senses, he glanced at Lin Fu indifferently. Lin Fu, you don't have to interfere with Duan Lingtian's matter anymore. Just stand aside and enjoy the show. If you dare to wag your tongue, I'll never forgive you. I won't. Lin Fu swore as he quickly shook his head. Scram, Zhou Qi snorted. No matter how he looked at Lin Fu, he was still angry with him. Lin Fu heaved a sigh of relief. When he turned to leave, he ran even faster than a rabbit. It was as though he regarded Zhou Qi as a tiger. So his strength can be considered to be in the top 30 in the outer court. This result is acceptable. It's within my expectation as well, Zhou Qi muttered as a plan formed in his mind. Duan Lingtian was unaware that someone was scheming to kill him at this moment. Currently, he was doing his best cultivating on the second level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, 9 Dragons Form. The 5 dragons carried the heaven and earth spirit energy from the air and the saint stones before shuttling through the 52 saint veins inside Duan Lingtian's body, circulating a great qi cycle again and again. Every time a great qi cycle was completed, the heaven and earth spirit energy would transform into true energy and merged with his qi that was the size of a basketball. Just a little bit more, and the true energy would be able to fill up the qi that was as big as a basketball. I'll definitely be able to open up my qi to the perfection mortal shedding stage in a month and open up new saint veins in 2 months. Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence. Currently, he looked forward the most to finding out how many saint veins he would be able to open after he made a breakthrough to the perfection mortal shedding stage. Although he was only at the mastery mortal shedding stage, he had already opened 52 saint veins. When he broke through to the mastery mortal shedding stage, he had opened 20 saint veins. In other words, when he opened his saint veins again, he would be able to open 21 of them at the very least. Even if I can only open 21 saint veins this time and another 22 when I break through to the paramount mortal shedding stage, the total number of saint veins I've opened at that time would be 95. And that's just the lowest estimation. The moment Duan Lingtian thought about this, his heart could not help but beat faster. Cultivate. Cultivate. Duan Lingtian was eager to find out how many saint veins he would be able to open when he made a breakthrough to the perfection mortal shedding stage. He was not worried about his strength after his breakthrough. He was certain it would definitely be a lot stronger, and it would be on a different level. Although Mount Hill City was far from the Moon Illumination sect, and Fang Wei, the city governor of Mount Hill City, had left the Moon Illumination sect after the entrance exam had ended, he still had his own way of finding out about what was happening in the sect. He just entered the sect, and he has already defeated the outer court disciple who was ranked 85th. Moreover, he also defeated another outer court disciple who was ranked 47th after a month. When Fang Wei found out about this, he instantly stood up with a baffled expression on his face. Although he knew that Duan Lingtian's innate talent was peerless among the ordinary younger generation, he did not expect Duan Lingtian to be so monstrously talented. I guess only in the Moon Illumination sect he'll be able to stretch his limbs. The city governor's estate of Mount Hill City is just too small, so it can't fit him at all. I think, in another few years, even the Moon Illumination sect wouldn't be able to fit him. Fang Hui's smile remained plastered on his face. Although he was delighted, he could not help but worry. Lu Huan definitely won't just watch as he grows stronger. Chapter 1439. In a secluded and mysterious place in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Deep in the mountains surrounded by clouds, a figure soared up into the sky from a gigantic cave and headed straight for the horizon, dominating the sky. As the clouds in the sky scattered, his figure gradually emerged. It was a golden-robed middle-aged man with a huge build. His face was handsome, and his complexion was as clear as jade. His eyes looked majestic without looking fierce. He was like a tower as he hovered in the air, his manner imposing. It has been 30 years since I went into closed-door cultivation. I wonder how Yonger is doing, the middle-aged man muttered to himself suddenly. A rarely seen gentle expression appeared on his noble face. It was as though the word, Yonger, held a magical ability. As though he was reminded by something, the golden-robed middle-aged man's face suddenly darkened, and the gentleness on his face disappeared without a trace. Humph. If it wasn't because of those old men keeping an eye on me constantly, I wouldn't have to wait until now to leave. Give me another 1,000 years, and I no longer have to fear those few geezers. Whoosh. The middle-aged man's body flashed across the sky. After a few moments, he already appeared in a secluded canyon in a deeper part of the mountains. The canyon was covered in weeds. It was very obvious that few had come here. Parting the weeds, the middle-aged man walked into a secluded cave. Initially, the cave was as dark as the night sky, but as the middle-aged man took a few turns, a ray of light appeared before his eyes. When the middle-aged man walked toward it, the light turned brighter. In the end, it became a little too dazzling. However, the middle-aged man did not seem to be affected by the dazzling light at all. He kept moving forward until he reached the source of the light. The cave was spacious, and pearls were piled up high like mountains. These pearls were the source of the dazzling white light. If Duan Lingtian was here, he would be able to identify the mountainous pile of pearls was luminous pearls with just a glance. Moreover, the smallest of the pearls was at least as big as an adult man's fist. The big ones were remarkable. They were the size of a basketball. Any one of it would be considered as an invaluable treasure in the mortal continent. However, in the golden-robed middle-aged man's eyes, these luminous pearls were mere accessories, and they did not interest him at all. After he walked past the cavern that was filled with luminous pearls, the golden-robed middle-aged man entered a small cavern. The small cavern was plainly furnished. Apart from a bed, there was only a table. Currently, both the bed and the table was covered in a layer of dust. Yonger. The golden-robed middle-aged man cried out shrilly at this moment. A terrifying aura rose from his body as invisible airwaves swept out, causing the bed and table to shake. Currently, the golden-robed middle-aged man's gaze was fixed on the surface of the table. An exquisite box laid open on the table. It was filled with glittering crystal fragments. If one were to put these fragments together, they would form a tiny transparent pearl. To be more precise, it was a soul pearl. The soul pearl was a pearl that stored part of a human or beast's soul. It was used to determine if someone was alive or not. If the soul pearl was intact, it meant that the owner of the soul pearl was alive. However, if the soul pearl was shattered, it meant that the owner of the soul pearl was already dead. Barf. The golden-robed middle-aged man was so enraged that his vital blood and energy rushed to his heart. Without any warning, he spat out a mouthful of blood that covered half the cavern. The golden-robed middle-aged man's body was trembling violently as he said in an extremely cold voice, "I don't care who it is. You killed my younger, so I'll slaughter your entire clan. A thunderous sound wave swept out and overturned the bed and table in the small cavern. Roar! The golden-robed middle-aged man suddenly roared loudly as he threw his head back. In the next instant, a golden ray shot out of his body. It was like the glorious light emitted from the sun. Boom, 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 comma. In the next moment, the earth quaked and the small cavern was split open by an unknown force. Apart from that, the huge cave and the entire mountain that hid all these small caverns suddenly crashed, setting off the dust that soared up into the sky. Roar, roar. At the same time, deep dragon roar spread out in all directions. A shimmering gold divine dragon rose up into the sky from the center of the collapsed mountain. Golden light emitted out of his body like a burning golden flame. As he roared, the golden dragon that was hundreds of meters long soared up higher into the clouds. The clouds trailed after the dragon as he circled around it. If one were here, one would be able to see that each of the golden divine dragon's paw had 5 claws. There was no doubt it was a 5-clawed divine dragon. Moreover, it was a 5-clawed golden dragon. In the dragon clan in the Dao Martial Saint Land, the 5-clawed divine dragon was undoubtedly the most powerful dragon. However, there was a hierarchical division among 5-clawed divine dragons as well. The 5-clawed devil dragon was the most terrifying one, followed by the 5-clawed golden dragon. Almost all of the clan leaders of the dragon clans were 5-clawed golden dragons. Only a 5-clawed golden dragon was worthy to lead the entire dragon clan. As for the other 5-clawed divine dragons, they were, at most, elders who assisted the dragon clan's clan leader to manage the clan. Due to the huge commotion, the 5-clawed golden dragon created, 3 old men were attracted to it. These 3 old men had huge builds and looked like towers as well. Currently, they were frowning as they looked at the 5-clawed golden dragon that kept circling around the clouds. Roar! The 5-clawed golden dragon soared up to the clouds. He lifted his huge head as his big eyes landed on the 3 old men. It's because of you geezers. If it weren't for you old men, Yonger wouldn't have died. When the 5-clawed golden dragon reached the end of his sentence, he roared angrily. De Yong, one of the old men was stunned. Didn't he die a long time ago? Humph, can't you tell from his words? Just as the clan leader had suspected, De Yong didn't die previously. He was hidden away by his father, De Ju. The other old man snorted. It looks like our dragon clan must thank whoever helped kill De Yong for helping us to eliminate the trouble. De Ju, how dare you? How dare you ignore the clan's rule? Today, no matter what, I'll restrain you and bring you back to see the clan leader to face your crime. The last old man snarled angrily. Roar! The 5-clawed golden dragon roared angrily again. In the next instant, the gigantic writhing body that was hundreds of meters long shuddered as a tail struck like a gigantic whip at the 3 old men. De Ju, how dare you? The 3 old men did not expect De Ju to be so audacious and reckless. He actually dared to attack them. They were furious and reverted to their true forms immediately. In just a blink of an eye, another 3 divine dragons appeared. However, these 3 divine dragons were only 4-clawed divine dragons. Although they were only 4-clawed divine dragons, their strength was remarkable as well. The 3 of them joined forces and managed to withstand the attack from the 5-clawed golden dragon. Seize him, bring him to the clan leader, and let the clan leader decide on his punishment. One of the green 4-clawed divine dragons roared. His gigantic body that was several hundreds of meters long quivered as it twined around the 5-clawed golden dragon, binding him like a hemp rope. Another 4-clawed divine dragon rushed over and used 2 claws to hold the 5-clawed golden dragon's head tightly. Roar! Seeing how the last 4-clawed divine dragon was charging toward him as well, the 5-clawed golden dragon sensed the danger he was in. He suddenly shone brightly as though he had transformed into a dazzling sun. At the same time, a bloody line appeared between his brows. Innate secret tactic. De Ju, you're crazy. How can you use your blood essence to activate your innate secret tactic? At this moment, the 4-clawed divine dragon who was charging at the 5-clawed golden dragon came to a halt. There was a horrified expression on his face. There was a hint of panic in the eyes of the 2 4-clawed divine dragons who were twined around and holding the 5-clawed golden dragon. Boom, 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 boom. In the next instant, streaks of golden light exploded in the sky like a golden flame. The 3 4-clawed divine dragons were all swallowed by the golden flame. Meanwhile, the 5-clawed golden dragon had also gotten rid of his restraint. However, there was no joy at being freed at all in his eyes. Instead, dread could be seen in them. His gaze was fixed in the distance. There was a 5-clawed divine dragon that was traveling through the clouds as 3 of its claws held onto the 3 4-clawed divine dragons. Only God knew if they were alive or dead. Naturally, they were the dragons that the 3 old men had transformed into earlier. The 5-clawed divine dragon was fully crimson. Its bloody-looking scales looked formidable as it gleamed. 5-clawed blood dragon. Among the 5-clawed divine dragons in the dragon clan, it was only inferior to the 5-clawed devil dragon and the 5-clawed golden dragon. Unlike the 400 meters long 5-clawed golden dragon, this 5-clawed blood dragon was more than 500 meters long. His body was even bigger than the 5-clawed golden dragon, and it emitted an oppressive aura. Diju, you're too reckless. Suddenly a thunderous voice resonated in the sky. The 5-clawed blood dragon said, not only did you selfishly rescue a 5-clawed devil dragon, but you also ignited the blood essence and used the innate secret tactic to hurt your own clan members. You've committed crimes upon crimes. Do you admit to your crime? The 5-clawed blood dragon's eyes flashed as he asked in his deep voice. Elder Shui, I admit to my crime. In the face of the 5-clawed blood dragon, the 5-clawed golden dragon felt fearful. Although he was a 5-clawed golden dragon and had an innate talent that was far greater than the 5-clawed blood dragon, the 5-clawed blood dragon in front of him was an old powerhouse in the dragon clan. He was born earlier than Diju by thousands of years. He was no match for him at all. Since you've admitted your crime, follow me to the enforcement hall. The 5-clawed blood dragon ordered. Elder Shui, I'll definitely go to the enforcement hall. However, I must leave the dragon clan before that. I must find the person who killed my son to avenge him. The 5-clawed golden dragon bellowed. Diju, are you trying to bargain with me? A hint of impatience began to show in the 5-clawed blood dragon's voice. Elder Shui, I know it's impossible to go against you with my current strength. However, I won't follow you to the enforcement hall even if I have to ignite all my blood essence. The 5-clawed golden dragon was extremely determined. Chapter 1440. Even a 5-clawed divine dragon had very limited blood essence in the body. There was only a total of 10 drops. Before this, Diju, the 5-clawed golden dragon, had already ignited 1 blood essence to cast the innate secret tactic exclusive to 5-clawed golden dragons. Only then was he able to overpower the 3 4-clawed divine dragons. If it was not for the appearance of the dragon clan's enforcement elder, Elder Shui, the 3 4-clawed divine dragons would have died. Diju, are you threatening me? Elder Shui's voice was filled with rage. Although he dreaded going against Diju who was willing to ignite his blood essence to cast the innate secret tactic, he was not afraid at all. However, if Diju really ignited all his blood essence in his body, he would become a sinner in the dragon clan. Diju was one of the 2 5-clawed golden dragons in the dragon clan. The other 5-clawed golden dragon was the current clan leader of the dragon clan. If there was no accident, Diju would become the next clan leader after a few thousand years. If Diju died, it would be a loss to the dragon clan. Currently, apart from him, Diju, and the clan leader of the dragon clan, there were another 5 5-clawed divine dragons in the clan. Now that Diyong, Diju's son, had died, it meant another 5-clawed divine dragon would be born soon. However, it was uncertain if that 5-clawed divine dragon would be a 5-clawed golden dragon or not. Even if it was, it would not be able to grow up in time to become the successor of the current clan leader. Elder Shui, you can take my words as a threat. No matter what, I won't go to the enforcement hall today. Diju replied resolutely, you only have 2 choices. You either bring my dead body with you or let me avenge my son. After I've avenged him, I'll go to the enforcement hall to receive my punishment. At that time, if you want to add the crime of me trying to escape punishment, I'll admit to it as well. How long do you need? Elder Shui asked. It was obvious he had decided to take a step back. He had no other option apart from that. He believed that even if the clan leader of the dragon clan was here, he would have done the same. Diju was not an ordinary 5-clawed divine dragon, he carried the duty of leading the dragon clan in the future. I have no idea. Diju was not surprised that Elder Shui decided to take a step back. It was because he was confident about this that he had used his life to threaten Elder Shui. Humph, I'll give you 100 years, after 100 years, no matter if you've avenged your son or not, you must be at the enforcement hall. If you don't show up, I'll capture you personally. Elder Shui snorted coldly. His eyes gleamed as 2 streaks of red light shot out. It solidified as it flew toward Diju. Diju did not dodge, he allowed the sharp ray to enter his body. He knew Elder Shui was leaving a mark in his body. No matter where he went, Elder Shui would be able to find him using this mark. 100 years is more than enough. Diju nodded his head in reply. If he still could not find the killer of his son and avenge his son after 100 years, he would be too embarrassed to continue living in this world. Elder Shui, I'll take my leave first. After bidding farewell to Elder Shui, Diju's true form emitted another ray of dazzling gold light before he transformed into a golden-robed middle-aged man. This was his human form. He did not stay any longer. Instead, he disappeared in the horizon as he transformed into a golden ray of light. Currently, he only had one thought in his mind, and that was to find his son's murderer and slaughter him and his clan. Currently, he was heading to the southern district of Dao Martial Saint Land. After Diju left, a huge ancient figure emerged in the sky near the five-clawed blood dragon. Clan leader. The five-clawed blood dragon lowered his huge head in front of this old man with a big build. I let Diju go. Please punish me, clan leader. I've already learned about the ins and outs of the matter. You've done nothing wrong, why would I punish you? The old man with a big build was the clan leader of the dragon clan. He looked at the direction where Diju was headed and muttered, with Diju's personality, if we don't let him go, he would have really killed himself since he had said so. It's because of his personality that we kept quiet for so many years even though we suspected his son, Diyong was still alive and merely prohibited him from leaving. When the clan leader of the dragon clan reached the end of his sentence, he sighed. For so many years, we've sent many people to investigate, both openly and secretly, but we still couldn't find Diyong. This is enough to prove that Diju had hidden him well. However, he was still killed by someone in the end. Perhaps, this is his destiny. Even if our dragon clan didn't take any action, he still did not survive, the clan leader of the dragon clan added. Now that the five-clawed devil dragon is dead, the crisis the dragon clan faced is now gone. Elder Shui heaved a sigh of relief as well. Duan Lingtian was unaware that currently, an extremely strong five-clawed golden dragon had left the Dao Martial Saint Land in rage and was heading to the south, straight to the half-moon island of the overseas Saint Island. The half-moon island was the island that Diyong, the five-clawed devil dragon, had ruled previously. Currently, it had become the Lingtian sect. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was cultivating in the outer court of a seventh-rate force in the Dao Martial Saint Land, the Moon Illumination sect. He was trying to break through to the perfection mortal shedding stage. Isn't that senior brother Feng? Near the independent courtyards in the outer court, many outer court disciples' attention were focused on a green-clad young man who was walking to an independent courtyard. Almost all the outer court disciples knew to whom the independent courtyard belonged to. An outer court disciple who had entered the sect more than a month ago lived right there. The green-clad young man was also well known in the outer court. He was ranked 5th in the Moon Illumination sect's outer court. Moreover, he was at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage and also a reputable powerhouse in the 9 sect alliances. This was because he was one of the few people from the Moon Illumination sect who was in the Earth ranking. The Earth ranking was a list ranking the most outstanding martial and Dao cultivators at the mortal shedding stage in the 9 sect alliances. Those who were ranked there were remarkable mortal shedding stage powerhouses. Even the weakest among them possessed strength that was on par with martial and Dao cultivators at the early Saint Rudiment stage. The strongest one could even defeat martial and Dao cultivators at the early Saint Rudiment stage. The green-clad young man was called Feng Fan. Apart from ranking 5th in the Moon Illumination sect's outer court, he was also ranked 99th in the Earth ranking. There was a total of 100 people in the Earth ranking. Although Feng Fan was at the bottom of the Earth ranking, one must not forget what the Earth ranking was. It was a ranking of all the remarkable mortal shedding stage powerhouses in the 9 sect alliances. It was undoubtedly a great honor to enter the ranking. There were many martial and Dao cultivators in the 9 sect alliances that regretted not being able to enter the Earth ranking when they broke through to the early Saint Rudiment stage. Feng Fan had an ordinary appearance with a medium build. He would not have stood out in a crowd at all. Currently, he had arrived in front of an independent courtyard. In the next instant, under the watchful eyes of the others, a thin paper appeared when he raised his hand. Swish! When he raised his hand, the thin paper flew out and wedged itself in the crack between the door and the frame of the door. It fluttered for a while before it finally stilled. That's a dual invitation. Many outer court disciple could not help but gasp when they saw this. I can't believe even senior brother Feng Fan could not endure it and is trying to challenge senior brother Duan Lingtian. Senior brother Duan Lingtian's performance is just too amazing. Not only did he single-handedly overpower senior brother Sengji, but he even managed to defeat senior brother Lin Fu in just 2 moves. Many of our brothers said his strength is sufficient for him to enter the top 10 in the outer court. Even if he enters top 10, he still won't be a match for senior brother Feng Fan, right? Of course, it's impossible. Senior brother Feng Fan is a reputable powerhouse in the Earth ranking. He's one of the top martial cultivators at the mortal shedding stage in the 9 sect alliances. 6 months ago, senior brother Feng Fan had a battle with a senior brother at the early Saint Rudiment stage from the inner court. The match ended in a draw. In some ways, his strength has already surpassed the strength of those at the peak of the paramount mortal shedding stage. Senior brother Duan Lingtian can overpower his enemy, but so can senior brother Feng Fan. Due to this reason, I vote for senior brother Feng Fan this time. A group of outer court disciples discussed frantically. Most of them were confident that Feng Fan would win, while a small number were slightly hopeful Duan Lingtian would win. This was not due to their confidence in Duan Lingtian's strength. Instead, it was because of his previous 2 performances. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was someone who excelled at creating miracles. An outer court disciple came from afar. After hearing the discussion of this group of outer court disciples, he chimed in unhappily, "Huh. You guys are talking about it already. I saw senior brother Feng Fan went to look for Elder Huang, and I thought I was the only one who knew he was going to issue a duel invitation. Tisk, senior brother Feng Fan has already issued the duel invitation. We even saw it with our own eyes." Many people looked at him disdainfully. "Wait a minute, you said you saw senior brother Feng Fan looking for Elder Huang. Are you sure he looked for Elder Huang to place his thumbprint on the duel invitation?" An outer court disciple said solemnly at this moment. This outer court disciple was here since the beginning. Of course, the outer court disciple nodded and said confidently, "I personally saw Elder Huang placed his fingerprint on the duel invitation in senior brother Feng Fan's hand. I'm definitely not mistaken. But, when I went past Elder Chu's place earlier, I saw senior brother Feng Fan had gone to look for him as well. Moreover, he had also asked him to place a fingerprint on the duel invitation," the other outer court disciple said with a frown. "Are you sure? I saw it with my own eyes. Don't tell me senior brother Feng Fan is going to issue 2 duel invitations." Well, if he wants to issue 2 duel invitations, there's no need for him to look for 2 different elders, right? Both duel invitations can have the same fingerprint anyway. The moment their discussion reached here, it suddenly came to halt without any warning. See, could it be the duel invitation senior brother Feng Fan issued? Is. Soon after, the group of outer court disciples gazed at each other, at a loss. They could see the shock in each other's eyes as they all came to a conclusion. Death duel invitation.